Hey everyone, welcome back to the Andor After Show. Wow, what a doozy. What an epic night for Andor fans, for Star Wars fans in general. We are thriving right now. I'm running off straight adrenaline for the past it feels like 3 hours. Like that.
Yeah,
That was
yeah,
a
yeah.
freaking movie. That was a freaking movie.
Mhm,
So we're gonna
mhm.
dive right into our reactions to discussion. But oh my god, that was some of the best Star
Ooh,
Wars that has ever been put on our TV screens ever. Like that was just insane. There it was just a roller coaster ride of emotions, and it was all done so well. Like this was just a masterful masterpiece. It was just beautifully constructed. But here to react and fanboy and react and break it down with me is of course my co-host for the Andor after show, Parks. How you feeling?
I'm feeling a similar amount of adrenaline, which is good because Mike, you are currently in the number one on the leaderboard for people who steal my sleep after the Tales of the Jedi episodes, or no, Tales of the Underworld or whatever yesterday.
Those are the
Um,
other world. We
yeah,
went
I
for
was on
two
that.
hours.
For anyone who hasn't watched that, I was on that recording as well. So go check that out.
We love you.
But yeah, no. Boy, oh boy, what a special night of TV. Just these three episodes. Like, I think after we had a great premiere for this season where I was like, this is awesome. Andor's back. I love how creative this show is about the scenarios it sets up and whatnot. Um, Last week, though, had me questioning kind of not my love for the show or anything. I love the show, but just like, oh, like, am I really locked into what's happening? Like, am I really invested in the story of this season? Last week was so dense, and in the same way, these arcs, the way they're structured, where like you get these like, um, you the first episode's your setup, the second episode's like your escalation, the third episode is like the big payoff, arc
Right,
by
right.
arc. In a way, it felt like last week was like the setup for this week.
Yes, definitely.
Obviously those episodes had their own things about them that were really special and fascinating and interesting. But I think there's something so powerful about seeing what happens to Gorman, what Gorman is before what we see of Gorman this week. But
Yes.
that was just one part of what happened this week because there was an episode after that that was insane. Um, yeah, as you can tell, Mike and I are just chomping at the bit to talk about this episode, but these episodes. But Mike, give me more of your like overall thoughts about these episodes tonight.
Yeah. Well, I was on the edge of my seat for this really set up Gorman massacre that's been teased in the trailers, and I'm like, oh, it's about to go down. Stuff is about to hit the fan. Like, let's go. And it was just a really tense sitting through all those
Yeah,
just the dominoes falling into
the
place,
build
and I'm
up.
like,
Yeah,
oh my god, like it was just crazy. And then just when you think, oh my god, wait, the Gorman massacre is going to be the third episode, like the kind of like the peak of it. It's like, no, they're going to do an episode 2. I'm like, oh crap, like they're jumping right into it, and which left me thinking, I'm like, oh wait, I know what comes next, the speech. Oh my god, like it
yeah.
just was. I literally had a pause, and I think you and I started like maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes
You
late on the
started before
episode.
I did. Yeah, yeah. I think.
Oh, I did. Okay. I
Well, at
started
least
them.
you, it seemed like when you sent me a text earlier in the night when you'd finished the second episode. And I was still watching it when you sent that to me because I had a late start that night for the first episode of the three.
Yeah.
But then we texted each other at the same time when the third one ended. So you definitely paused to somewhere in there to catch your breath.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I literally paused after the well, I like took a break after the second episode, and I'm like, man, I'm loving this adrenaline run, but I'm like, again, I said this last week. I wish maybe they could just do a weekly. I wish they did a kind of a weekly release. I don't think the momentum would be lost at all. But I mean, it's great seeing this as a collective bunch.
Yeah.
Like Parks and I, before we started recording, we're talking about um how this made us feel like we just walked out of a cinema watching Star
Like one of the new
Wars.
Star
Like,
Wars movies, yeah,
right.
like the night you saw Force Awakens or Last Jedi or Rogue One, like how you felt where you went home and you probably went on opening night. So you went home, it's like past midnight and you're like, how am I supposed to go to
Right.
sleep? That's very much how we both feel right now. Like we just watched some of the best Star Wars that has ever Star
We
Wars.
did.
I don't need to think too
Period.
hard about that. I haven't felt
No.
this way like too many times.
Yeah.
This was incredible.
And for me, besides the adrenaline, I had tears in my eyes.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had tears in my eyes, and I was starting to kind of like I was just like almost in a constipated state of tears and emotions. That I was like, I'm about to full on cry, or I'm not going to cry at all. So that it was just the emotional buildup of what happened on Gorman, and then what was coming with Mon Mothma, and then even at the end,
Mhm,
I was
mhm.
just I was left speechless. I mean,
Yeah.
Tony Gilroy and company did such a fantastic job. I'm like, we are being treated so well right now, and I'm like, we are eating the cake. We are eating the cake.
Oh yeah.
I mean, just and who would have thought 2 years ago when we're watching the first Andor, or more than 2 years ago watching the first Andor season, that for me, I love Andor season one, and I love the way it's really narrative driven on Ferrex and everything, and it's home, and they come back home, and it's very reminiscent of Rebels to me with Lothal. But oh my god, like, can we say yet if season two like outranks season one for us personally? I know you're probably still on the fence because you really like Andor season one is up there for you, but I'm
Oh
like,
yes, absolutely. Yeah.
I think the last time I felt like this, or close to it, was the Narkina
Yeah.
arc
Hmm.
in
Yeah.
season one. So I'm just like, oh my god, I wish you guys could feel my heart still. I'm just
Oh
like,
yeah.
I felt like I was there with Mon Mothma and Luthen plotting, where I literally
Hmm.
had to pause before the speech because I'm like, I need to take a breather and chill
This is so tense. I am
before
tense.
it hits
Yeah.
the fan, because I feel like
Hmm.
I'm gonna be on the run with her. And just this is the first time with Star Wars that I had to like just breathe and focus on my breathing. I haven't like started chewing gum because I was so stressed. I was so stressed. I felt like I was in that Senate building too.
And at some
So
point, you start to wonder, like, why do I watch this? It just makes
right,
me so
right,
anxious. Like, is
right.
this a good feeling for me? But it's just for the catharsis at the
Oh,
end of it all.
absolutely. It's so worth it.
Um,
It's so worth that
yeah,
thriller
yeah,
ride.
yeah.
But amazing experience. I couldn't,
Oh
I
yeah.
couldn't have asked for a better experience. And yeah, it was funny because we both, when you had text me, I had opened our text chain, and then you had send I just finished the episode. I'm like, me too. I'm like, I literally saw your
Hmm.
message
Hmm.
come in. I'm like, I grabbed my phone as soon as the credits came in. Huh. With that being
Oh
said,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, what any more to add to your reaction? Are you ready to start
Yeah, I
diving
mean,
into this?
just a quick thought about like comparing season one and season two. Again, like this season, the delivery method is different. Like getting it
Yeah.
3 a week, like I think just adds to the feeling we have right now. Like we
Yep.
never
Yep.
could have felt this way back in season one unless we let
True.
the episodes build up and then watch them in one night. But even then, like I think something we haven't really seen from Andor until now is the 3 episode arc where like the middle episode is like one of the best episodes in the show. Usually it's the third one, but you get
Yeah.
the second episode. But then the
Yeah.
amazing thing about tonight was the third one might have been even better. And it was just like insane. So you get that a cumulative effect of just payoff after payoff of and crazy things happening, catharsis, characters' fates being sealed. This was a huge night for Andor. Also, just a huge night, like a huge story for Star Wars. Like this felt like Star Wars history unfolding. Like these are
Yeah.
pivotal moments in the
Pivotal.
entire franchise that if we hadn't previously thought about it in that way, we will now. These are pivotal moments in the birth of the rebellion. So,
Yes.
um, very, really incredible. But yeah, if you're
Take
ready, I am ready to kind of go
bet.
into it.
I just want to say, take it back to, I think it was Entertainment Weekly or Variety or one of those big trades back when Rogue
Mhm.
One came out. They were like, yeah, or maybe even Deadline, but they came out and said, yeah, Rogue One was great and everything, but this should be the finale to all the Imperial and Rebellion story. Like
Oh
no more
wow.
story set in this. I remember
Mhm.
that headline so clearly, and I mean, I thought about that. I'm like, yeah, like this would be, now that Rebels is gonna end, it was up and coming. They were on the third season, I believe, when Rogue One came out. Yeah,
Right.
they
Yeah.
were. So I'm like, yeah, this would be a perfect, Rebels ends, and then Rogue One is there. We just got Rogue One. This would be a perfect finale to to the story. We, the rest can be filled in with books and everything. Like, I'm kind of tired of the rebellion story in a way. I'm like, we got enough with Rebels.
I had a similar
And
feeling. Yeah.
we were just feeling that at the time, and I love the interconnectivity with Rogue One and Rebels. But I mean, if we went with that notion, I mean, I just imagine the uh, what we would have missed out on if Lucasfilm was like, you know what, variety
Yeah.
has a point. Let's just not go there ever again.
Hmm,
Like,
hmm.
all this, what you said, pivotal moments that I'm so glad that it wasn't just done in a book.
Yeah.
It was done on screen because it's an
Right.
important story to tell, and for us to visually see it. So
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, Parks is gonna lead our, like last week, he's gonna lead our discussion here tonight. He took all the good notes. I took some notes too, but
Hmm,
not as in
hmm.
depth with Parks. So he's gonna walk us through these 3 episodes. So
Sure,
Parks,
sure.
take us away.
Before we start, Mike, I just want a quick question.
Absolutely.
What's the name of your driver? Tell me the name of your driver really quick.
My driver?
Yeah, your driver, the one over there that's approaching us on the platform right now. What's his name?
Oh, um,
Cloris. It's Cloris.
Cloris. It's Cloris.
Cloris over here. I got Mike. Bang! There we go. So anyway. All right.
Like,
I love that
there's so
moment.
many names in this
There
damn show. I'm
is.
like, wait,
There
on the
is.
spot, I don't know.
And they are the most glupshido names in Star Wars still,
Absolutely.
so. All right. So we start off with episode 7, which is Messenger. Opening shot. We're on Yavin, and we're following Willman. Willman goes to meet Cassian, who is he's got a little jungle hut, a little tree house with Bix. They're still together. They're still making the thing work. And they reunite with Will. They haven't seen him for a long time. And Will is here on behalf of Luthen and is like, hey, Luthen wants you to go kill Dedra. What did you think about this opening for the episode, Mike?
Yeah, I thought this was a great opening. I expected to see Yavin, but not like this early in the
Me
arc.
too. Yeah.
I thought it was gonna be maybe like something at the end. So as soon as we got to
Hmm.
Yavin, I'm like, oh, we're doing Yavin. F it, we're doing Yavin. No, it was great. It was um what's Cassian. Yeah, I just the foresty hut. It was so reminiscent of Endor to me in a
It
way.
was, yeah.
Obviously, where I
I
was
feel
like,
like there
wait,
were
are
some
we in
background sounds as well that at
Yeah,
times you heard a certain bird chirping that I'm like, I've heard that hundreds
Endor?
of times in Lego
Yes.
Star Wars,
Oh my
on
god,
the Endor levels.
100%.
Yeah.
And the sound effects were really good, or maybe it was uh my surround theater that we have in the basement. That when I was sitting there, I literally thought there was a bug in the basement. I'm like, I'm gonna have to turn on the lights real quick. But no, this was a great start. Takes us to, I mean, we've all been waiting for Yavin, so I mean, it just kind of took us there, and I'm like, casting's already on Yavin. And I just had all the, I don't know if you had the flashbacks to the first episode, when casting was on Yavin. I'm like, I hope he didn't come here, and I'm like, this damn planet again, like,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
and it
Like, you
made me
almost
think
thought
of,
he might have been the one walking out of the ship and looking around and being like, really? We're back here,
right. He's like, where's that brigade at? He's like,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
better not come
They probably all
anywhere
killed
near
each
me.
other at this
Right.
point, yeah.
But yeah, I love that they set up camp, because that's not something we really think about. We think that they're all in the Masasi temples, and to know that they're settled like right outside, and kind of out, in the outskirts in the forest is great. I'm just like, yeah, that's
Yeah.
a very rebel thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this was a really interesting way to start. I love the bits we get about Luthen here. Like, they're not on speaking terms with him.
Hmm.
And as this season has progressed, the feeling has kind of set in my mind that, like, oh, Luthen's relevance is starting to wane. Like, the rebellion needs to go loud. That's something that we've been seeing over and over with the last kind of 2 arcs. That this thing that they've been building, this spy network, is to allow this actual rebellion to take off. And now that it is, what Luthen has built doesn't really matter anymore. And not only that, I mean, we get some great scenes later on here where like Vel talks to Bix about like, hey, we're free of Luthen. And it's like, wow, like I as a viewer, I also feel like the relief of like Luthen is such a fascinating character, but to work for him would probably be a nightmare, you know?
Hmm.
He just knows everything, it's terrifying. But um We also have just like some really interesting musings here from Cassian that again continues throughout the episode. This arc really about like him kind of being like, I do what I want, you know, like I do what I want because I make the choice to do so. I don't follow orders, that sort of thing. Yet over and over, he is kind of falling into this pattern of following orders. I thought that was such an
Yeah.
interesting thing to kind of kick off with here, where he's pushing back very heavily on Luthen. And ultimately goes, I'm going to do it. So that was interesting. And with Will, really quick, one thought I had there was like, oh, I was in my head, I was thinking, okay, the implication of like the last scene we got with him in Saw last arc was Will is with Saw's band. He's not going back to Lutham. You know, he drank the fuel, he drank the Kool-Aid, and now he's with Saw's like extremist, you know, partisans. But no, he's in contact with Luthen still. So, very, you know, this character has been very surprising.
Yeah.
There's some other surprising stuff he does in these 2 episodes, I think. But yeah.
Yeah, I love Wilman. I love the emphasis that was put on him in the first episode, and then or in the first arc, I should say. And then by the time we got to this arc too, I'm just like, yeah, I'm a Wilman supporter. And when he mentioned the loss of his dad, I'm like, damn, let's go do something about it. Like that, I didn't really care for him on Ferrix because he was kind of behind. He had some scenes in here and there, and I remember him like
He didn't really become a shining star until like the
no,
very end.
right.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
all I remember from him in season 1, or not all that I remember, but I just remember specifically of him banging on the pans or pots that were outside the
Right.
houses
Right.
with
Yeah. Yeah.
the metal. So to alert everyone that the Imperial forces were there, or the security, whatever you want to call them,
No, the pre-Morlana, the corpos,
there you go,
corporate
the
security.
corpos.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, the more yeah, but yeah, so I love that he's been put out here in the forefront, and he's had this story, and so far, thankfully, he's all good. Like I don't
Oh
want him to
yeah.
die. Like I'm like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
please live on. But after till after Rogue One. But yeah, I love the Wilman setup, and then I love that he was just like, she killed my father, and I was
When
like,
you put
yeah,
it that way, it's like, yeah, she kind of sucks. I haven't thought
yeah,
about that before.
she does suck, and I'm like, damn it, it felt like a great assassination plot that was like, you know what, where like it was like with the not to tie Star Wars Underworld into here, but the way the Jedi Council sent Quinlan Voss and
Mm,
Ventress to go
yeah.
assassinate Dooku. I'm like, wait, why
Hmm.
hasn't anyone thought of that before?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, no,
I would just go
100%.
kill them. Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. So from there we go back to Gorman for the first time in a year because of the year jump with this arc.
Hmm.
And yeah, the situation has gotten worse. And you could see this just from the visuals alone. The main plaza, there's less people, a lot more media. The media and the role of propaganda has been like a something that has had like increasing relevance and emphasis in this season of Andor.
Hmm.
And then I think here it really hits like it's like fever pitch point of like here's where where the media is very complicit in everything going on. We get like competing kind of journalists saying framing things in different ways. The main kind of framing of it all though is framing the Imperials as heroes, as good guys, and these unfortunate like insurgents and agitators who are stoking further conflict. So clearly, the Gorman front has been doing a lot. There was a firebombing in Palmo, a bombing at a naval terminal. There's lots of preoccupation. There's curfew. We also get a scene here in the mix where Partagaz's talking to Dedra and going, "Hey, we figured out there's no alternative to Calkite. They're going with the original plan, which is forced resettlement." So, what's the thing he says? Bad luck, Gorman. Um,
Hmm.
so at this point, I think it's setting in, Mike, that like, oh, it's about to happen. Like what they're doing is about to happen. How did you feel like once you got that realization and then going through Gorman here in this kind of year jump?
Yeah, like you said, you could definitely feel the effects of it, of the year jump and the more of a grip that the Empire has on the people, and the way they have a curfew, and the way they just on the plaza they had these like big staging lights, and they like turn them on, and they turned them on, and I don't know, it just felt like a uh very imperial controlled state now. And I was like,
Hmm.
okay,
Hmm.
such a difference from the previous arc. And yeah,
Yeah.
I the imperial presence was that much more grand and everything. And I love that we kind of caught up with the Gorman front and seeing how they were doing, and
Yeah.
how they've kind of evolved a little bit, and you were hearing different things that they've kind of accomplished. But
Right. Like, yeah. I
I
just want
love
to quickly
the
say, like
yeah, yeah.
Enza and most of the Gormans are like, we need to keep the fight on. But we've seen a very different take from Rylance, who's the guy who leads the Gorman front this time, where he doesn't want them to continue fighting.
Yeah.
So, and that becomes a growing bit of conflict through these
Yeah,
episodes. Yeah.
no, absolutely good point. And to me, I love the way the broadcasters were kind of like, oh, we don't know how the Imperials have had so much patience with this. They're trying to frame it that way, that it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
wow, we are at the mercy of the Imperials. Like they're the
Hmm.
ones that
Hmm.
are being patient. Like when will this patience run out? And just adding to the tensions. And I'm like, damn, like, but I love seeing that media aspect. I think one of the I loved in the High Republic book, Rising Storm, the second book that they did, the second big novel. There's
Yeah.
such an emphasis with media in it, and the way there
Hmm.
was a media presence at battles or different things. And I was like, dude, why hasn't Star Wars done more of that, where they have more of a like media presence, like journalists up at the front of wars, and we get
Yeah.
to hear
Yeah.
kind of from the people's perspective. And I mean, we got it in a way, but it was very propaganda style, but it was still like, okay,
Right. Right.
cool.
Right.
We're
Yeah.
getting some type of it just felt really connected to kind of our lives, what we kind
Yeah.
of experience day to day.
Yeah. I mean, it connects very directly to something we're going to talk a lot about later, which is Mon Mothma's speech. But like, right here, I mean, and that is again the culmination of this idea about the propaganda and media. Like, it's always been an aspect in Star Wars. The amount of times in Rebels, like,
Yeah.
even just like the first season of Rebels, I remember like, I mean, you probably know this more clear than I do because I haven't seen Rebel season one as much. But like the episode where they're like, oh, there's this senator who's been speaking out or whatever, and we need to go like talk to him. Like even then, the media is playing a role and lifting people up or shaping people's perceptions of like certain people in the galaxy. And I think it's the way the show highlights the clash of like how it's being framed, like objective reality, and how it's being framed by the media
Right.
in such a vivid way that makes you go, oh, this is propaganda. And propaganda is dangerous, very, very dangerous. Like the truth, as Mon Mothma
And
says.
right.
Yeah.
And very fear mongering. I mean, and it's very connected to what we experience with our lives, where you'll like, I remember to kind of connect it, like not to get too much into our real world, but I remember
Yeah.
when the BLM protests were going on, like the way the news
Oh,
was
sure.
covering it,
Yeah.
you had
Hmm.
all the older people scared and being like, oh my God, they're gonna come to our city, they're gonna burn it down. Like it was pretty
The
crazy. And
rioters,
the
looters, that whole
writers,
thing.
right,
Yeah.
right. And so then you think about the way the Imperials did it in Rebels, where it's like, these insurgents have stolen the TIE fighter and caused damage. These insurgents, brought harm to the senator, or the
Yeah. Yeah.
insurgents, blah, 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 blah. So it was just this constant,
Hmm.
propaganda and fear mongering. And then that's exactly what these people are doing here, to stir up the people to be like,
Yeah.
wait, we don't want conflict with the Empire. Wait, we know who the aggressors are. So yeah,
Yeah.
I really like that was in the spotlight for that episode.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it was very emotionally effective. And yeah, no, it really had its impact. We touched base here a little bit with Cyril for the first time in a year as well.
Hmm.
Kind of meets with Dedra. And we had some ambiguity about with where Cyril was at. Cyril,
Cereal. He likes
Cyril.
cereal, yeah.
Yeah, he does like cereal. Where Cyril was at like last arc, in the beginning at least, we're like, oh, is he gone rebel now? But not quite. He was all in on Dedra's plan. There was a very key line at the kind of end of that arc, though, which was Partagaz talking to Dedra and being like, he cannot know what we're doing.
Hmm.
And that really blows up this week with these episodes where where Cyril meets Dedra and is like impatient, wants to know badly what the Empire is doing. She won't tell him and goes, Pack immediately will go home as heroes with a smile. And he is clearly just not buying it and is like, dude, you've pushed me to the limit. I have to know what's going on, you know? So yeah, that seed has been planted. Really interesting. Then we kind of cut over to Mon Mothma at the Senate. We also see some more propaganda here, decrying the Gormans as terrorists. There's a great scene where she's like walking through the security checkpoint, and we hear all the news stations playing at once, kind of like inferring this idea of like, oh, here are the lawmakers and legislators for the galaxy, and here's what's informing their opinions and their takes on certain things. She meets with Senator Orrin, who represents the Gorman, and is basically like, you know, I've done all I can. You know, I hope they don't do anything else. And then gives a shout out to Mon Mothma, like, protect yourself.
Yeah.
This is our first Mon Mothma sequence, Mike, and like going into it. Are you kind of feeling like, oh, they're setting the runway here for Mon Mothma to give a speech at the very end of this thing? Yeah.
Yeah, that's when I was like, oh, hello, that's going to be the end point. And we're going to see the Gorman massacre way sooner than I kind of thought in my head. I'm like, oh, yeah, we're going to see that coming up. And I'm like, oh, man, it's going to, the cauldron is brewing. The cauldron is brewing. So it was at that point where I'm like, yep, that's where we're going. And
yeah,
as you said, yeah, that was, I'm like, I love the interior of all the Senate scenes. I'm just like, they really redesigned it from what we've seen in the prequels and in Clone Wars. I'm like, you know, the Empire was like, let's fix this up and make it a little bit more just basic white and almost dreadful in a way.
And it all comes across as a renovation, not a retcon or redesign, which is nice.
Right.
So I like that a lot. It fleshes out of like, oh, here's the Imperial hallway, you know, all like bleached white and all that stuff.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So then we have a very fascinating scene back at Yavin where the rebellion has force healers. And this one could never have been my bingo card, because to me, like, one of the defining aspects of this corner of Star Wars, like with Rogue One and Andor, is like, there are no force users. Like, we're not going to bring them in. But even though that probably doesn't quite count for these people, like, they have force sensitivity, and I think the same way that what's his face, Chirrut has in Rogue One.
Right.
It's kind of the same level of like, oh, they have sensitivity to it, but they don't have like the force and whatnot. Cassian thinks they're a scam. I kind of miss some of the context here. He says something about like Marva not liking him. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, that Marva was kind of scammed by one or something like that. That's
yeah.
On.
So kind of like they parallel them as like soothsayers, or like fortune tellers, or like, I'll read your what's the deck of cards that like
the tarot cards.
Tarot cards,
like a fortune teller type. A reader.
Exactly, yeah. And to me, they were wearing robes that kind of looked like the Life Day kind of red robes they wear in the holidays. So whether that's a coincidence or an actual like nod to that is great. But yeah, this lady touches Cassian and thanks him for his clarity. He has a strength of spirit, and she calls Cassian a messenger. There's some place he needs to be. And later on, after that, Bix is talking to the force healer, and she says, maybe the place he needs to be is you. So yeah, Cassian is not feeling great about this. And I just want to point out one more thing here. During the scene, I'm very big on the music in these episodes and just in Star Wars in general. Not that makes me special. I just, wanted to say something about that. There's a musical motif in the background that reminds me a lot of like what you hear in Your Father Would Be Proud from Rogue One. Like it goes like dun 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 dun. It's very similar, but not quite the same. It just reminded me of that. Okay. And I thought, oh, cool. Okay, this is like Rogue One foreshadowing, maybe. But Mike, force healers, are they a scam? Are they real? What did you think of this whole thing with the force healers?
Well, to back it up into right when Bix and Cassian were talking, I
Hmm.
was laughing because I don't know if this was intentional or not. I don't know if Tony Gilroy or the writers understand like the Mexican culture, but I
Yeah.
was laughing because the way Bix was like, or Hispanic culture, I shouldn't just say
Sure.
Mexicans,
Sure.
but
Sure.
Hispanic culture. The way Bix was like, oh, like you're pretending that everything is fine with it, that it doesn't hurt, but you're in pain, and you just keep going on like nothing's wrong. And I'm like, that if that is not every Hispanic male
Really?
carrying on, you will see Hispanic males with uh, just any type of kind of abnormal thing on their body that's like, you should probably get that checked out. Ah, no, I'm fine. Or like some like
Yeah.
big scrape that, and it's just like they like don't give a f.
Oh,
Like
with like
it's
the
so fun. Yeah,
the
like
scar on his
so I
back.
don't know
Yeah. Yeah.
if that was intentional or not, or maybe that was just a total coincidence. But
Could have been Diego
um
Luna suggestion. Yeah.
yeah, or maybe even they goes, "Oh no, like we don't like, getting things checked out or whatever." And it's so true. You meet so many Hispanics that are like, "Oh, whether because they're scared of going to the doctor or anything, they're like, "Oh no, I'm good." Like you should like my dad is a big one of that. It's like he'll have like the nastiest like pneumonia sounding cough and he'll be like, "Oh no, I'm good. I'm good." And I'm just like, "What?" I don't know if it's like a bravado thing or something or just I don't have no idea, but it's very common in
Yeah.
Hispanic males. So I was laughing like my ass off. I was
I
like,
love
"That is
that.
so funny." I was like, I
Hmm.
don't know if that was intentional or Diego Luna, he got to be play like producer on this, so you don't he could have had that influence type on the story, so you never know. But that caught my attention. But with
Love
the
that.
Force Healer stuff, not on my bingo card. I was like, wow, we went there, but I thought as you were mentioning about Chirrut, I thought this was perfect setup for something like that when Cassian encounters someone like Chirrut that's like, all right,
Mm.
I after experiencing something like this, I can just be in his presence and not be like so annoyed or have to say like a remark at him. It's like, wow,
Yeah.
maybe that force healer, maybe something does work with the force. So yeah, that was I felt like a prelude to what comes with Chirrut and Jeddah and just kind of a prequel to that almost in those moments. But that I mean, it's so funny to me because and I'm not trying to sound like a main character here or like I'm the messiah, but the amount of times that I've been told growing up something like that, I always think about Shmi um and Qui-Gon, and I felt like this scene was kind of reminiscent of that in a way. It kind of
Mm.
echoed some beats where it was like, this boy was meant to help you. He was born to do some great things or whatnot, and that's what I felt this limelight of was shining on Cassian, where it's like this is not just some pilot. He's a messenger. He's gonna do some great things, and I just got like the biggest goosebumps on my skin. And I was like the amount of times that when I was growing up, I was always told by teachers um or relatives like, oh, this dude has something special. He's gonna do great things out there. He's gonna be there for people. And now I see that come full circle as that, I'm a teacher and everything. And I'm like, dude, I don't know if people were just saying that just to say it or if they actually meant it because I felt like that came full circle where I'm doing something important where I'm like, wow, like I'm, thinking back to my childhood or even my high school days of people saying that to me and then just being where I'm at now, I'm just like so grateful. So when Cassian was being told that stuff, I was like, oh my God, that is so real. And yeah, it was just a really deep moment. And it was like you are not just a pilot, you have a higher purpose in life. And I
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
it was so awesome.
Yeah, and to me, like it's so central to again what Cassian's story is for this arc, which is about this kind of conflict between like subservience and like free will.
Yeah.
And the force healer thing is kind of both in a way. Like I think for Cassian, what this force healer's kind of saying about him kind of points at this idea of like destiny, which
Yeah.
is like, yes, Cassian does in the context of like the Star Wars story have the destiny of giving his life to steal the Death Star plans. But like for Cassian, it's like if you knew you had a destiny, like a predetermined fate, then do not have free will. Do not make the choices that you want to
Hmm.
make, that sort of thing. And so I think that's something that kicks around in his head for all these episodes is like, no, I do what I want. I mean, just to kind of cut ahead here to like some of the next scenes we see when we meet Draven from Rogue One, he's finally
Yeah.
here.
Great to see him.
Um, he goes, the day I need permission to come and go is well, I didn't finish writing down the rest of the line, but the day I need to, something to the effect of, the day I need permission to come and go, I'll be long gone. Like I won't be here. Basically,
Yeah.
like you don't get to tell me what to do.
Right.
So yeah, no, it's just fascinating, especially considering where we meet Cassian in Rogue One is like kind of the opposite of this. He's
Yes.
very sure of himself and very subservient to like whatever, like what Draven tells him to do. If Draven tells him to do it, he's going to do it. He's very, very loyal. So we're not quite there yet, which is fascinating.
Yeah,
But yeah.
there's time to grow. I love the line that he says in the previous arc where he's like, um, I'm thinking like a soldier, and Luthen's like, well, you need to think like a leader. Or something along those lines. But
Yes.
it's like it's I feel like Cassian right now, he's in that struggle of like I want to do stuff. I want to help. Like this is gonna be my last thing that I do.
Yeah.
And then it's just like he kind of, not to get to that conversation yet, but he kind of gets stuck in a position where it's like, now what the hell do I do? Like, I wanted to leave. Now I'm stuck here. Like, am I going to fill that leader position? Am I going to play that soldier? Like, so
He's at a crossroads.
I love the crossroads that we're at with Cassian, where he's not all figured out. It's like, dude, yeah, he still has a year to figure himself out and think and be part of this rebellion or not. But how many times, and not that I felt like this was a cliche at all, but how many times have we got in that story of the rebel, or like I'm thinking even Ezra in Rebels of being like, a bigger cause. I don't know about that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like the, connected to Lord of the Rings, even though I know that's not the most endearing sort of franchise for you, Mike. But like it's Frodo having to be the one that wears the ring and takes it to Mordor, and that's something Filoni's even referenced in some of his stories. It's the same thing with Luke in the original trilogy. Like Luke is the one that has to go and confront Darth Vader. It's just this kind of process of life where you are kind of bestowed the burden of having to carry on something very great. You wonder, why me? Why do I have to do this? Why can't I have a normal life? It's the burden. It's the it's the sacrifice. And that's kind of what we're getting at here with the Force healers and Cassian. Like this is him grappling with that maybe for the first time of like, do I have a higher calling? Do I have a burden? No, I want to go live my life with Bix. I want to live. That's the life I want to live.
Right.
But that's another thing at the end we'll talk about a little bit later is like Bix doesn't want him to do that either. So it's and maybe that reinforces this concept of like the grand destiny that Cassian has. So it's just really fascinating.
And I'm so thinking of Ezra in this real, like in a real moment where he's talking to the viewer in season 4 of Rebels, where he's like, I'm trying to remember what specific scene he was. He said it in. If I think about it long enough, I'll remember. But it was in the World Between Worlds when he was with Ahsoka. But it was after witnessing Kanan's death, I think. But he's like, I wish my life were different. I wish I could go back to Lothal, and I wish I could be a kid again, and I wish I could. I wish I had my parents again, and I think that's right when Palpatine comes in. But I felt that moment because that's Ezra talking to us directly, and just feel that pull at your heartstrings, because it's like I've gone through so many moments of stress or like anxiety of like I feel like the world has just come to an end, or I'm like, this is the end all be all conflict, and I'm like, I literally always think that's my go-to thought of like Ezra, like I wish my life could be easier. And I felt like each character, or at least the major players in these arcs had that, or in this arc had a moment like that. Whether it was Cassian, Mon Mothma, Luthen, I was just like, wow, they each kind of had a similar moment like that where they're like, I don't even know what to do. We're kind of like, what do we do? Where I felt like, especially Luthen, who always knows the next plan, even he was like, I don't know what we're gonna do. We're gonna, he just felt like he didn't have a plan for once, which was fascinating to see. It felt like we were kind of seeing the cracks in the armor for all the characters here.
Yeah, absolutely. To bring this episode to the end here, then, obviously, so cool seeing Draven, so cool seeing the U-wing. It's like, wow, we are getting glimmers of Rogue One in here already, which I was not expecting until next week, but it's coming through. It's so cool. we head back to Gorman. Him and Will have their own separate missions. Will's going to go hang out with the Gormans and kind of coordinate things there, while Cassian is going to set up for an assassination attempt on Dedra. They have a nice sort of goodbye greeting where one person says Ferrix, the other person says Stone and Sky. Great callback, of course. We know about that from last season. Cassian is here as another identity, which is Ronnie Guja. And there's a great little funny bit in these episodes where every time he says it to someone, they go, Guja? Did I get that right? He's like, yeah, Guja. And he tells him how to spell it. Like it's like a,
Guja. Yeah.
I like how they just keep giving him, like, Cassian got one cool name, and that was Varian Sky. But we got Keith Gergo last season. We get Ronnie Guja here. Like, just so they know it's silly,
I like the Varian Sky a lot.
Varian Sky is so cool. Like, we all should aspire.
What is my name?
Yeah. Varian Sky is a state of mind, But yeah,
the best fashion designer around. What can we say?
Yeah. In the mix here, then, too, there's some new Imperial soldiers that have arrived. They look like children, Dedra says. Sergeant Bloy is like, I don't know about these guys. We learn a bit more about what their purpose is next episode, but that's interesting. And then as Cassian is checking in, he talks to the bellhop from last season. And at first it's like, the bellhop was the one who told him about the Tarkin massacre.
Right.
And at first it's like, does he recognize him? Does he remember him? But by the end, clearly does, because he's like, I won't be taking your bags up this time. So that was a cool connection.
Yeah. And what was the other thing that he said? He said,
he doesn't say it here, but he says it next episode.
Oh yeah, the other part. Yeah, we'll save that then. But I love the way
that's a great moment.
Purposely put him at a room which they don't give. It seemed like they didn't give to guests anymore. He gave it like a front view center of what the hell is going on this plaza. So it gave him, I don't know, he probably was like, he's probably here to spy or assassinate someone.
He caught wind.
Let me give him a clear view. And I was like, I was on the edge of my seat being like, oh, I wonder if he remembers them. Probably not. Like that, it was a year ago. And he's like, oh, but I won't be taking your bags up this time. I was like, ooh. I'm like, that was cool. That was cool. So I like the bellhop guy.
He's a homie, and that is further reinforced by next episode.
Absolutely.
But yeah. And one last note here I included, which is Will has serious pull. Damn, he's sleeping with this girl named Drina, and it's like, have these people known each other long? Have they ever known each other? It just seems like every place Will goes to, it's like, I've only known you for a few days, but I want to marry you. Like, it just keeps.
He loves all these white girls. He loves all these white girls. It's so funny. I'm like, wait, is this the same girl from? No,
he has a type. Funny. He has a type for these blonde girls.
All right.
Yeah,
we've been there.
Yeah, but that really sets the stage for episode 8. Who are you? Oh boy, Mike, buckle up, because from here on out, it gets wild. So let's enjoy ourselves. Okay. So barricades are being set up as Cassian is waking up. They're opening the plaza up. They couldn't get into it the night before. Now they can. Dedra has heard some rumors that mining rigs are being dropped in the countryside. So Calcite, they're finally getting the Calcite out, but they're not telling Dedra. So we have some interesting kind of like, compartmentalization going on here. You get some more emphasis on reporting, both being like, all right, shit's about to go down here on Gorman, and those nasty insurgents are about to attack our brave Imperial soldiers. This is the episode where it happens, Mike. This is the setup. What did you think about that part of it?
Yeah, no, I thought it was eerie. That some things were being communicated to Dedra. Like, she only knew so much. She knew as much as she needed to know. And I love the power struggle almost that her and the what was that guy's name? You said Captain, or the
Loy, Kaido. There's like a couple. You mean the Imperial guys? Yeah,
the Imperial guys that arrived. The one captain that said, or lieutenant, whatever, he said, I'm the he said, "Oh yeah," he said, "I'm the trigger, you're the
You're the
finger."
finger. Yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah,
Kaido that said that. Yep,
I
yep,
was
yep.
like, "Wow!" Like that was such a cool line where I was like, "Whew." Yeah, I
A lot
had
of
a quick.
like,
Yeah,
I would say a lot of moments where the episode wants the writing is directly communicating like whatever happens, just know that Dedra is responsible for this. Just
right,
know that. Like when he says, "We might be the trigger, but you're the finger." Like,
right.
yeah, they put so much emphasis on that here.
No, absolutely. So I like the setup there, and the I mean, we really get from the start of the episode, it's like go go go. Like Cassian's reporting that it's like there's barricades being set up, and like what the hell's going on? Then the Gorman front's starting to get ready, starting to arm themselves, and I'm just like, we're really diving into this. We're really diving into this
Yeah.
real quick, and you kind of see Cyril kind of being like, what the hell's going on a little bit. So yeah,
Hmm.
fascinating setup. And then you also had the media people up at their stations doing their thing, and I was like, oh man, like this is where like the next, as you said, like strap yourselves in. I remember just I was kind of just lounging, sitting back, like my arm over like a pillow or something, and I was like, let me sit up for this, and I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
on
I
the edge of
gotta.
my seat for the rest of the night.
Yeah. So then we get some marching in the streets. All the Gorman are gathering. We Rhinelander, as we said last episode, is very much against the kind of further violent escalation of things going on. He really doesn't want people to die. He really, really doesn't want that, and that's what it's come to. You kind of reap what you sow, Rhinelander, and that's kind of unfortunately where we're at here. Has a line I think to Enza or something like, "The only path is silent resistance," which to
Yeah,
me is like, I have a hard time pointing to like who's definitively right and who's definitively wrong here. Because
sure.
for one, the Gorman have been oppressed by the Empire for so long. There's no easy answers to trying to get rid of someone who's that powerful, in their oppression. But then I don't think silent resistance is like a good option anymore, where it just feels like the equivalent of saying we can't do anything. We can't. We have to tone down the violence. But at the same time, the escalation of that is what leads to a massacre. So I thought that was an interesting bit.
It
Um,
was because
there's also, yeah, yeah,
also, I just want to say it felt like a kind of a 180 from the last time we seen the
yeah.
Gorman front when they
Hmm.
were robbing the train. Maybe they took some time and they're like, yeah, this is we lost, we killed somebody that was trying to
Oh,
help
people
us,
will
and
die
then
doing this. Yeah,
people
yeah.
will die doing this, and maybe that was a lesson they kind of learned, and they're like, we just have to be silent, and maybe that's
Mhm.
why he takes that stance. I was trying to
Because
come
clearly
up
he
with
was like, he was clearly not grasping the reality of the situation last
right,
arc, and Cassian was kind of criticizing him for that, and he did not like that. Well, clearly now he
yeah,
does grasp the reality and goes, "Oh, I don't want this anymore." And
right,
I think
right,
some important things to consider is he is also a wealthy businessman, and I think for him, he goes, "Well, I have something that I can kind of hold on to if this thing doesn't work out." Not saying he doesn't have a heart or doesn't care, but just like, for him, there's much more appeal to, let's just kind of survive this instead of fighting it further.
No, absolutely. Yeah. That's and I mean, look, it's you can't really blame him for taking that approach. Everyone fights in their own way when being oppressed like this, right? So it's like everybody's going to have a different um uh volume of the way they respond back, and he, like you just said, he was in the previous arc, he was like ready to he was out open about it and careless about it. Now he's just like very careful after maybe seeing what happened in the last arc at the end there. So it,
Hmm.
it was
Hmm.
just fascinating to see kind of a 180 instead of a further approach from him.
Yeah, yeah. We get a great scene here too. Then in the mid of this march, where Cyril is trying to catch up with the crowd. He's
Hmm.
kind of been this informant for the Gorman for a while, but it's clear to the Gorman that like he's not actually helping them anymore, and they're not willing to really do anything drastic about it. But he still has contact with them. I mean, last episode, like Enza slaps him in the face when he's like, "Hey, you might not want to keep doing this," and she kind of slaps him. Here, I mean, there's just a great moment where Rhinelander pulls him aside in the alley and is basically like, "Don't you see what's happening? Don't you have been screwing us over because this is about to happen. And he says, "What kind of being are you?" Which I thought was just such a great way of putting
Yes.
Cyril in his place, because it's like, again, the cogs are about to turn, and there's so many great moments of that happening in this episode where the camera just kind of sits on Cyril and he's like, wait a minute, like,
Right.
is something like morally and ethically awful about to happen? I didn't know that was going to happen, you know.
And
um
he's a scary villain, or antagonist, it's the better
yeah,
word, because he thinks that everything he's doing is morally correct
right,
up
right,
until
right.
this point where it kind of shatters his belief, and he's like, oh my,
Yeah,
when he gets that shake up from
Rylance,
Rylan, I was gonna say Skyline, I'm confusing all these names,
Varian
Rylan's.
Sky, yeah.
It's like a wake up call to him, where, like you said, that there was a resting shot that it was just like you kind of captured where his state of mind was, and
Mm-hmm.
that was I mean, that was just changing for all of us, because how many times?
Nothing. We're fine. We're
Oh,
fine. I just heard a loud crack. I think
oh,
it's
okay.
fine. We're fine. Yeah. If
It's
the
Dr.
TV falls
Gorman.
over, it was live
Oh,
here on camera. Keep it moving. Yeah.
but yeah, it was because I love the in the last arc how we were confused. You and I thought for a second that Cyril had changed his ethics, and that we thought for a second that him and Dedra had separated, so that meant,
Yeah.
oh, that he had a change of heart. And so here I'm like, wait, what's going on? I was a little confused. I'm like, I thought they were tricking us again for a second, but then I'm like, no, I think I really feel a change in him, that he's having to
Yeah.
change of perspective a little bit. So,
Yeah.
especially seeing the frantic look on his face, and kind of like, I need to talk to Dedra now. Yeah, that
Right. Right.
really
I
moving
mean,
stuff.
it really is that, again, the Mon Mothma speech captures this whole thing so well, of like the him crossing the gap between um like what has been said about the truth and the objective reality of what's actually happening in real time. Like, he's going, wait a minute. Like, the way the news is reporting on this, the way the Empire's talking about this versus what I physically see happening is so different. And he has that perspective in large part due to his connection with the Gorman like front and all that. So that's really
Isn't
fascinating.
there isn't there a moment where he's like staring at the reporters, kind of, or hearing what they're saying?
Yeah, yeah, he's kind of looking over. There's like a slow turn and the camera kind of zooms in, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh man, like, again, the cogs are turning. He's putting it
Mhm.
together." And I'm like, "Ah, I love that."
So cool.
Again, what a dumbass this guy is, you know. But just like that moment where it's like the very loyal like lamb is gone to the slaughter, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a better analogy there, but anyway.
No, great analogy. I was gonna
Yeah,
say.
thank you. I try here on the All Stars podcast. So we get a scene as Cassian is exiting the hotel, has a final checkout with the bellhop. Bellhop goes, "I never checked you, and don't worry, they're not going to track you. I got you, bro." But he says, "Rebellions are built on hope." And it's kind of a shocking moment in a way, because it's
Yeah.
like, again, not only is it the quote that we've mythologized and kind of uplifted and made iconic in Rogue One, but it's the fact that this line comes from a virtual nobody that I think is so special about it.
Yes.
That line that, again, we've mythologized, we've lifted up, we've made iconic. Rebellions are built on hope. There's so many lines about rebellion in Star Wars that are iconic now, but like that line just comes from a dude with a job, at a hotel on Gorman. I think that's perfect. I love that, because it coming from a nobody speaks to the essence of what Andor and Rogue One is about. Normal
Yeah.
people overcoming extraordinary odds. Beautiful.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love the. I'm like, oh, I feel like some people. I feel like this could have been such a corny moment, but it wasn't, and I could see how. No, I don't. I can't see how people. But I already see people saying that's gonna be a corny moment. But for me, it worked completely. And as you said, a, a complete nobody. And I love that it's somebody that. And I'm not saying Cassian hasn't had his own share of struggle with the Empire overtaking his homeworld, but seeing somebody literally at the forefront, working in front of that plaza,
Mhm.
and seeing the Empire dominate and grow overnight, and slowly and surely, and having that stance on, yeah, rebellions are built on hope, and seeing the Gorman front kind of work a little. I'm sure he's seen glimpses or just heard of the things going on, or seen the news of what was going on with the Gorman front, but just, yeah, complete nobody, but him having a front row seat at what the hell is happening
Yeah.
with Gorman, with his world, with the Gorman people and everything. So I was like, yeah, that I when he said that, I literally dropped my mouth and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
works so well. And then
Hmm.
Cassian, who's a leader in the rebellion, says it to a complete nobody that is Jyn Erso. So kind of repeats the cycle there with the verbiage. So I thought that worked. I thought that worked really well, and I thought that was great. So
Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, really great. Especially just thinking about like the lineage of this guy, this random guy saying this line to Cassian, Cassian saying this line to Jin, and then Jin saying this in front of the entire rebellion in Rogue One. Really cool.
yeah,
Yeah. So then things get intense. The exits are getting locked. The squad of newbies are getting walked into the crowd that we met last episode. The thought in my mind then was, oh, that's why, because they're new and they're expendable. So when whatever goes down, we're losing these guys who just signed up, and that's it. Really evil. What a surprise. Yeah, another new and evil thing. Um, the crowd is chanting. Help me out here, Mike. I didn't write it down, but we are the Gorman. The galaxy's watching us. Is that what they say?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Repeat that over and over. And then one of the Gorman front people starts singing this national anthem of sorts. And for me, doing all this kind of research I'm doing for my Andor video right now, the French national anthem. Again, these people are heavily based on like French culture, French people, that
Hmm.
sort of thing. Um, the French national anthem is a song called the Marseillaise, I think, and it was created during the French Revolution,
Right.
which I don't think is a coincidence here, and is a song that comes up in the Russian Revolution. It has become a symbol over the world in like the last 200, 300 years of revolutions for like the fight for freedom, basically, despite being also the French national anthem. So I thought that was a really cool moment. And it's moments like that where you go, this feels pivotal, and this feels important to Star Wars. Like this feels like something real is happening. Like this is a culture, this is a community. It starts with one person, and the song spreads out to the entire crowd. Um, and it's chilling. It's really cool.
It was. I love seeing them chanting the phrase over and over. We are Gorman, the galaxy is watching. And that itself was moving. But then when you had one person sing to the next person sing, the next person, and they
Hmm.
were all in unison then singing, it just gave you goosebumps. And seeing the unity of these people, and I was like, hell
Yeah,
yeah, I'd like this. It's definitely it's a cry for change, a cry for help, sort of. So
right.
yeah, that was really moving.
And naturally, they do it so that they can break your heart even more than they were going to already.
Right.
Um, Before it all goes to shit, though, we get a scene where Cyril goes up to Dedra and chokes her. He literally, like, God. Yeah, I in my notes I wrote, "Holy shit." She tells him the truth, and I think one thing he said to her is like, "And if you tell me that's just a rumor, or these
Yeah.
are rumors, I will throw you out the window." And it's like, holy shit! Like the love, the falsehood of love in this relationship is gone. Now we're embracing it for what it really is, which is just a controlling back and forth. Mostly Dedger controlling him, but now he's flipping the script. Whoa. Um, he's upset. He feels betrayed, lied to, and she goes, "That didn't seem to bother you when you got all those promotions." And she's
Yeah.
very quick to fire that back at him. And at this point, he kind of slowly backs out, goes into the crowd, and goes into crash out mode, we'll call it. Um, yeah, that was crazy. That was all really crazy.
Yeah, and she dangles a lot of berries in front of him, and it's like, yeah, the promotions thing. We wanted to be together. You will go home at
Mm,
home. We'll go home to together as heroes.
yeah, just
And
look the
I'm
other
just,
way. Look the other
yeah,
way.
right. It's
Yeah.
just like, oh man. And when there was such a buildup of Cassian looking with his little scope over to Dedra, and I'm like, There's even points
Oh yeah,
later where he had his blaster aimed. I'm
so
like,
many moments.
you don't know how many times I was
Shoot
like,
her! Yeah.
shoot the damn. I'm like, shoot that damn gun. I was like
Yeah,
yelling. I was
yeah.
like, shoot her. And so when Cyril was choking her, I'm like, I'm not gonna lie, I was rooting for Cyril there. I was like, end it. Like I'm like,
Yeah, yeah.
choke her out, and then
It is,
somebody
yeah.
take you out. I was like, look, I love redemption stories, but
Just get rid of them
For
all. Yeah,
Cyril,
like.
I'm just like put them both in a room and just.
Mhm, mhm.
But
Yeah.
it was just for me, I was just like end it with both of them. But yeah, that scene kind of was making me laugh, and I was like, but the intensity from Kyle, what's the actor's name?
Kyle Soller. Kyle Soller.
Kyle Solar. There we go. I was thinking
Yeah.
satellite solar. Okay, there we go.
Solar
Kyle
energy, not
Solar.
satellite, yeah.
Oh my god, I'm just like, it's funny because in
He,
the
like,
teaser,
screams at her at one point
yeah,
too. It's like,
he,
whoa. Yeah.
Kyle, when he was fighting Cassian later, and when just with the Dedra scene here where he was choking her, this man is a great actor.
He
You
is
just saw
so good.
the
Yeah.
ferocity in his face, and then his grip on her neck. You thought that he was like we're gonna give you $1 million if you actually kill her. Like he was going all at
Mhm.
it, and I was so
Yeah.
impressed.
That was the
For
thing. It wasn't like a Hollywood movie choke where it's like,
right,
"Ugh," and they're like, "Ugh."
right,
It was literally the way he, like, grips her head and does, like,
yes,
this, like, on it's
right.
just so specific where I'm like, "Holy shit."
And even
Like.
put his head next to her kinda, and it's just like,
Mhm,
"Don't
mhm.
tell me it's a rumor." It was beautifully executed, and I mean, it's funny because in the trailers, like, there's a scene where, there's a moment where Dedra is, like, choking on her collar,
Force
and people are
choke,
like
yeah.
yeah, people are like, "Oh my god, it's Darth Vader," and I'm like, well, ended up not being Darth Vader, ended up being
Mhm.
Kyle and Anxiety.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Or I mean,
Anxiety. Yeah.
Cyril, but it ended up being
Ended up being the
Cyril and
ghost of
Anxiety.
Cyril, maybe. The
The
ghost of
the
Cyril, yeah.
ghost of Cyril, yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my god, crazy.
But from here, Mike, Dedra gives the order. She says, proceed. And you think it's going to go one way. You think they're going to just start shooting protesters. Nope. You're watching Andor. Nothing is as you think it is. Not because they want to be contrarian, but because the solution, the answer for why things happen is always more creative than what you can come up with. They have Imperial sharpshooters, and they have one of the sharpshooters shoot one of the riot guards, which is fascinating, but accomplishes two things. One, it riles up the riot guard to start attacking the rioters, and two, it supports the narrative that the Gorman started it,
Right.
which is so crucial to them covering up how evil all of this is. Again, just this show revels in the details, and it's one of those details that makes you go, "Oh my god, they're even more evil than I thought." Every
Right.
single time, it cannot get worse, and it gets worse. And then from there, blaster fire runs wild. People are running, people are screaming. It gets crazy. It gets worse and worse and worse. At some point, they release K2 droids, and they're throwing people, throwing barricades.
God.
Mike, this was insane. How did you react to all of this?
Savagery. Well, I was telling Parks before we started recording that I'm like, "Oh my god, these, like, riot troopers look really cool. I would love a Black Series figure of them." And I was like, "Wait, never mind."
Do I actually?
Do I actually want something like that
Yeah.
on my shelf? I don't know. But yeah, it was just intense, and for a second, I kind of felt this doesn't sound really weird, but I promise I don't mean it to be. But I almost felt underwhelmed by the Gorman massacre because they weren't moving at first. They were just like kind of like slowly blaster fire, and then the
It
protesters.
wasn't all at once.
It wasn't all at once, but then it became chaotic when, as you said, they brought out
Mhm.
the KX droids.
Yes, KX
Yeah,
droids. Yeah, yeah. Yep.
the KX droids. I'm like, wow, I think I know what KX means now. Kind of, is that an abbreviation for kill or something? Is the X?
Maybe. Yeah. Yeah.
But I thought these were just kind of now I'm just so reminiscent of the Jedi Fallen Order game and Jedi Survivor of those damn
Oh
droids
yeah.
being beating
They're hard to kill.
the,
Yeah.
the living crap out of you when you were
Mhm.
playing Cal. But yeah, it was total chaos, and I don't know how some of the characters here were just kind of wandering around where I'm like, you need a duck or you're gonna get shot.
Yeah.
But I love seeing all the characters that we've kind of had some little bit of focus on and time with from the Gorman front, and Wilman was there,
Hmm.
but slowly you just saw them all falling and getting shot at, and I was like, man, this is total chaos. But then when they start throwing the mocktails or the what do you call those,
Oh, the
the
Molotovs,
the
kind of.
Molotov,
Yeah.
I'm like, because when they were packing up their gear, I'm like, oh, are they putting water? And I'm like, oh wait, no, that looks like something.
Hmm.
So
Those are
that's
some of the
when,
fire bombs. Yeah.
right, that's when chaos hit. And I love the moment, I'm sorry, that predates this with Cyril, when one of the officers, when he goes in trying to confront Dedra, he sends him to a room and he sits there and it's just all KX
Right.
droids sitting there. I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yes. Oh, I
I
forgot about
would
that
have,
moment. Yeah.
I would have my pants. If I was like, Cyril was like,
Mm.
what is going on? But yeah, when they released the droids, I was like, oh my god, like that. I mean, when he grabbed the one of the Gorman front soldiers and he just whipped her across and then she was dead on impact.
Oh
I'm
my
like,
God.
that was brutal. That was
Oh
brutal. She
yeah.
died on impact. That was brutal.
Hmm.
That was scary. So yeah,
That was Enza, I think. Yeah.
yeah, that was pretty intense. And then you have Cyril in the middle being like, I don't even know where to look.
Yeah.
I don't know
Literally
what's
crash
going on.
out in the middle
That
of a
was
genocide. Yeah. Yeah.
literally. But then when he sees Cassian, he just goes right in for it. And I'm like, because he was about to take the shot. I'm like, shoot her. And then that's when Cyril jumps in and kind of tackles him all nasty to the floor, where I literally was scared for Cassian. And there's a moment
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
he had his
Well,
blaster trade.
we'll talk about that in a moment. I want to just give my thoughts on this real quick
Yeah.
because, yeah, no, this was absolutely insane. I mean, just again, like you're saying, not all at once, and I think that was the power of it. It was like the knife slowly being like kind of pushed further and further in rather than all at once, um, which made it all the more like traumatizing for lack
Yeah.
of a better word, if there is one. It's the fact that every death you see clearly, this is full on in daylight. You're seeing stormtrooper shoot civilians. You're seeing the blaster make direct contact. You're seeing people drop like flies everywhere. Some of the characters we've known, some that we've never met, faces in the crowd, characters we don't know, but faces that we've kind of like focused on a bit, like throughout. There's the one guy who screams "bastards" in gore
Yeah,
or
I love
whatever,
that. Yeah.
that we kind of cut back to a lot of the time, and then at one point we cut back to him and he's been kind of just completely blasted and shot down. The emphasis on Cyril, I think, is great here too, because he like personally knows a lot of these characters, unlike Cassian only kind of knows them, but Cyril does. And so his reactions and how that registers for him and how that registers for the audience, I think, is a really fascinating way of framing all of it. And yeah, these K2 droids, I mean, oh my God, like just that initial shot of the one of them kicking the
Oh my
barricade
god.
and just the way they're just throwing people everywhere. You have people like landing from like the sky at like one shot. I feel like there was someone who just kind of crashed down. It's like, holy shit. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, no, just insane. One little detail here too. You mentioned the scene where Cyril enters the room with the K2 droids or the KX droids. Was your thought when the camera lingered on that one KX droid that was staring at him,
Yep.
that was K2?
Yep.
It's like we
100%.
can't prove it. They all
No.
look the same, but
No. Right.
that was K2. There's always something a little off about him.
Yeah, that has to
Yeah.
be K2.
Hmm.
Um, and another shot with Cyril that I absolutely loved was it keeps cutting back to him in the middle of the plaza, kind of looking, and I love how you just heard nothing but white noise, and then but you would hear the blaster
Like
fire,
the
and you would
reverb
kind
of
of see it,
blaster fire. Yeah,
right,
yeah.
and it was just that, and it was just like he was just looking at, like you said, all the people that he's known, and then also just being like, what the hell did I
Yeah,
do? Like,
right.
just having that moment, it was like
Yeah, like
everyone has their story of redemption or realizing their
mhm,
fault,
mhm.
and that was his. Like, it was reminiscent of Vader looking at Palpatine while
Yeah.
Palpatine was electrocuting Luke and being like, no, that
Mhm,
this
mhm.
ends now. And Cyril was just caught in that moment of like,
Yeah.
what the hell did I do?
But it's yeah, and it's even deeper than that to some extent. I mean, it's done differently. I won't say it's deeper than Vader realizing the love for his son or anything like that. But just like him kind of going, "Oh my God, my whole life I've been in service of this empire, and here I am realizing this is what they were doing. I helped this happen. Like, I'm partially responsible for this. Yeah, just crazy.
And
There's no dialogue that can capture that. The way they've done it with the acting and the visuals was great. Yeah.
and I can I segue this into the Cassian fight with him?
Yes, that's where we're going next. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
but so I almost took it as because I'm like, why the hell is he attacking Cassian? I felt like he kind of dropped everything that he believed in, but I almost felt like he attacked Cassian the way he did is kind of in an anger, being like, "You're the one that put me on this path.
You
Because
ruined my
you
entire
ruined
life.
my life."
Yeah,
You
yeah.
did you get that similar feeling,
Yes.
that vibe? Okay.
Yes. And that
Okay,
was
good.
the thing. That's the thing that makes him, I think, ultimately dies an antagonist. Like, doesn't get a full-on redemption.
Yes.
Because yes, he has this moment of realization, but what does he choose to do after it? He chooses to take it out on someone. He doesn't
Yeah.
do the right thing. He doesn't like try to stop the protesters, join the fight, help any of the survivors. No, he takes it out on the man who ruined his life.
Right.
And in that, you get this insane bare knuckled brawl.
God,
I don't think we've
no.
ever had a fist fight in live action in Star Wars.
No. I thought I was
Um,
watching Daredevil.
Literally, like, I was like, oh my god. Yeah, no, this was crazy. I think if you watch the Andor Declassified specials they've been putting on the Star Wars YouTube channel, the one they did for this episode, I watched it right before we started. They have great like B-roll of Diego Luna and Kyle Solar practicing the fight choreography. And it just feels
Mm,
so weird seeing them like smile as they're with
and
each other as
laughing.
actors. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's like you think they hate each other here.
Right.
And yeah, this thing is raw. It's crazy. They're throwing things at each other. It's Daredevil. It's full on Daredevil. You get that great shot from the trailers where Cassian dives over the bar. You know, like what? There's a stray grenade that gets thrown, or no, it's the grenade that the bellhop throws,
Yeah.
like the little thermal imploder.
Where all the stormtroopers are.
Yeah, it gets Cyril, and you're like, oh, he might be out. I'm thinking about like deaths we've had in the show, like Brasso, where I'm like, oh yeah, he's probably dead. Like, this show doesn't play around with that, but then he gets up, he's reaching for a blaster. Like, oh my god. Yeah, and there's Cassian on the ground, not able to do too much as he's pointing the blaster at him. Cassian slowly turns around and goes, "Who are you?" And then Cyril lowers the blaster slowly and then gets shot in the head by Rylance. That is the end of Cyril. Mike, what did you think about the end of Cyril
Yeah.
Karn here?
Well, I was a little disappointed at first because I was like, I hate when they're on the path to like redemption, like Hux is, and then they're immediately killed. But when I was thinking back to that, or I was just even now thinking about the context of Cyril in the middle of the plaza, just taking it all in and beating up Cassian and being like, "You ruined my mother effing life." Where it was like you said, that's probably, I mean, that's as close as that's his own path of redemption of sorts. That's his own way of redeeming, kind of, oh, should I really messed up and I'll start with this guy. So to me, I was like, okay, like it felt kind of closed. I felt like it got a finality where it wasn't like, damn, I wonder what happened next. I feel like it was resolved for me. I was like, all right, Cyril
Yeah,
kind of,
yeah.
as you said, died. Died an antagonist, or did you say
I'd
protagonist?
say died an antagonist. Yeah.
Yeah, he dies an antagonist, but at least he kind
Maybe in
of
that split moment, it's like, honestly, I'd compare it to how Maul dies a little bit, of like, not in every way, but just in
sure.
the sense where Maul kind of in his last moment goes, look, there's hope for all of us. Like, I'm dead, but is he really the chosen one? You're that moment from Rebels or something. I'm trying to remember what Maul says to Ben right before he dies.
Oh, he'll avenge us.
Right. He'll avenge us. And it's one of those things where it's like, yes, but does a Jedi get revenge? So Maul only ever gets halfway there at best. Cyril here, I pronounce his name differently every time. Also, sorry,
Cyril.
First F-bomb on this pod, I think. Maybe it's Andor, y'all. It's
Yeah,
out.
it's Andor. We heard Bail gonna say shit, so
That's true. Oh man, what a cool quote. But anyway, yeah, no, he only ever, I think same thing for Cyril, you know, he only ever gets halfway there at best, where the tragedy of him putting down the gun before he gets shot, of like, maybe for him it's finally clicking of like, shoot, like maybe everything, if everything I learned about the Empire is a lie, maybe what I learned about Cassian was also a lie. Or
right.
if Cassian does not think that about me, then what am I getting so worked up about? Or Cyril's whole thing, again, pronouncing it differently every time, it's just on brand, is is I'm the hero of my own story, you know, like I want to be the most important part to the Empire. You know, I want to prove myself. You know, I'm a shooting star. I want to go all the way to the top. This is Cyril's whole thing, and unfortunately, he's just a little too lame and just a little too like self-absorbed to do that. Here's a moment where, despite his entire lifelong effort to be that person, to be the most important kind of like most aspiring person he can be, his rival goes, I don't know who you are. And that's the last thing he hears before he dies. Who are you? And boom, he's dead.
It's such a Wanda and Thanos moment, which
I
made
don't
me
even
laugh,
know who
like,
you are.
I don't even know who you are. And it was just
Yeah.
it was kind of funny and in a pathetic way on
It
Cyril's
was.
end. It was pretty funny, and I'm like,
Yeah.
well, you know,
Yeah.
you had a
And
moment there, but
yeah.
adios.
And just for what the character of Cyril represents, you know, this kind of incel type person who's
Right.
like, you know, like um wants so badly to matter, but just doesn't. It's that
Right.
moment of like, this is what all the decisions you've made over the life has led you. Was it worth it? No, you know. So yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the end of Cyril Karn.
And he still caused and I liked it because if anything, his final act was causing Dedra like heart, like
To
he made
actually
her
feel
have like
guilt. To actually feel
yeah,
guilt.
yeah,
She couldn't disassociate from it. She actually had
no,
to confront it. Yeah.
yeah, and she had her own little panic attack moment. So I'm like,
Yeah.
well, shout out Cyril.
Mm. So we're coming to the end here then of this episode. After the massacre, the survivors who are here are making their way out. Gormans are still running, they're fleeing. Cassian and Will have what feels like a final goodbye. Thankfully, it's not. But
Yeah,
they, you know, do Ferric, Stone, and Sky. Will is going back for Drina. And again, I'm thinking, bro, you just met this woman like a day ago. And then I'm thinking, well, maybe you didn't. Maybe you've known her for a lot longer
right.
because of this kind of like care. But I don't know. It's one of those things where it's just like, you know what, Will, go get it, bro. Live for something, you know, go get her, you know.
Yeah, for real. And then you
uh,
see people flying all over it while he's trying to think about it.
yeah, the K2 droid smacking the shit out of everybody. And then yeah, they get chased by a KX droid before I believe it's the character of Dylan. I don't know, it's one of the Gorman ram into him with a speeder.
Perfect.
And at that moment, as you see this, you know, not completely, but this like dismantled KX droid in the wall,
Yeah.
I probably thought, as you did, Mike, oh, there's K2SO, you
Mm-hmm.
know, there he is. For whatever reason, Cassian decides to take him. I don't have a problem with that personally, but watching this with some friends, they were like, felt kind of random for him to take it. And it's like, obviously, he needs to take the droid for the sake of having him in Rogue One. But I don't know. I kind of like that he's like, let me take something out of this tragedy. You know, let me walk away with something, you know, um, could be useful, you know. I like the impulsiveness of it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I felt like well, here it's funny because years ago we all would have been like, "Oh my god, this retcons that one comic." We were all after we read that comic, we were all wanting for it to be
Yeah,
retcon.
yeah. No one
But
cares anymore.
years ago when we wanted, it was so forgettable. But
Mm-hmm.
like I said on the Tales of the Underworld podcast, if you have a better story and you're in the, and I'm not saying that the books don't matter or anything. I will talk about this in the next one, but I was even down
I
if
think I know
they
what you're getting
even,
at.
change some stuff from Rebels or
Rebels with
whatever.
Mon
I'm like,
Mothma and the planet she goes to. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm like, if you have a better story to tell and it doesn't line up with the animation, who cares? You're doing live action. You do the story
At
that
this
you
point,
want.
yeah,
At
yeah,
this
yeah.
point, just do it. And same thing with animation. If you want to do it, do your own thing. I'm here for the story. Nobody's gonna sit there and tell Tony Gilroy, well, that sounds like a 10 out of 10 idea. In this one comic, we already kind of established it, and we're telling the fans that everything kind of coexists and that there's no contradictions. It's just like, leave it alone. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's like you have the better story, tell it here. And like you said, I think the way I took it was the way Cassian had this like look of fear on his face when Blaster Fry was not affecting the droid. And he was just like, well, damn it, I'll take this for the rebellion. Kind of, it was a random moment, but it makes sense. That makes sense.
It's
So,
just whatever happened in it worked for me. I guess
yeah,
I'll say whether
it
it's the
did.
performance, the music, the shot. I don't know. Just the way it came together, it worked in the end.
Right.
And so we end off this thing with Cassian flying out on the U-wing with the KX droid, with the kind of the Gorman over the radio, kind of trying to broadcast a signal to the greater galaxy. If you believe in truth, if you have any faith left in the truth, please listen. I wrote that down. Again, so many connections here that build towards that Mon Mothma speech that we get next episode. And where this all ends, though, after everything you watched, is one of the propaganda news networks calling the Imperials who died on Gorman fallen heroes. And the final shot is of E.D. Karn, a character we all hate, in tears, not from the loss of Gore, but from the fallen Imperials. Absolutely disgusting. Just disgusting. This is a moment that I think, if it doesn't radicalize you as a viewer, if you haven't been radicalized yet watching this show, you experience like you get the clash of kind of realities here in real time, where it's like, no way. Like, we just witnessed that. I felt the tragedy of that massacre. And this is how people are reacting to the people who started the massacre dying. Like, get out of here,
Right.
Insane.
Right. It was for me, I felt like I was crying alongside Edie for completely different
Completely
reasons.
different reasons, yeah.
Like I said, I was like tears in my eyes where I had to go. When I took a break, I went up to the bathroom and I was like, let me take this off.
Yeah.
But I went up there because it felt like, first of all, how chilling was it for Wilman's girl of the week? What
Drina,
when she was on the
girl of the week.
She was like
last week it was Saw Gerrera,
last week it was Dogger, right,
Yeah.
and the week before it was Rhydonium. But for Drina to be up on just like Ezra's parents broadcasting against the Empire, and she was, is there anyone out there? Can anyone help us? The Empire has massacred the Gormans, and it was so chilling to hear. And then you have Wilman going back there, and she's like, please help me, like, we can get a message out there, we need to call different. And then you see him scrambling, and then Cassian's driving away in the tank
that
or in the
great
Hubbard
close-up
Peter.
of his face.
Oh my god. And
this
then
show
just
knows what to do, and they put the camera on Diego Luna, and he's like crying but traumatized. Again, one of those shots at the
so good. And then you cut away to the overlook of the city or the town, and then you see the newly erect Imperial building that has caused such a fuss, and it's like, and then TIE fighters like flying in all over, and there's smoke everywhere. I'm like, what a turn of events what a turn of events. And it was devastating, and it felt like a final goodbye between Cassian and Wilman. And it felt like, it feels like Cassian has been holding on to so much of Ferrix, and now the last thing he in that moment that he has is Bix. And it's like, wow, like, so that was saying bye to our brother after losing Brasso and so many others. It's just like, wow, that just pulls at the heart. And yeah, just a very, very emotional last a few minutes. And yeah, I walked away with tears in my eyes, and I was like overwhelmed with emotion.
Absolutely. Yeah, one of the best episodes of Star Wars.
Yes.
ever, rivaled maybe only by this next episode. Episode 9, Welcome to the Rebellion. So this episode, very different from the last two. It's the aftermath of Gorman, but it's mostly, almost entirely on Coruscant. And a lot of it is about the Senate reaction to the Gorman massacre. Goes very similarly to what we've been seeing with all these propaganda news networks. The Senate is kind of in shambles. Everyone is reacting. Some are reacting because of the Imperials who have died. Others are reacting because of the insurgents who've died. I would wager to say most are reacting because of the Imperials that died. Again, appalling that this is just the two separate realities that, you know, the people living under the Empire live under. We get a scene here where Oren is being escorted or being arrested. He's the senator from Gorman. He spoke out, and this is what's happening to him, which is kind of setting the stage for Mon Mothma, what could happen to her later. We get a conversation between her and Bail, which we didn't address this last week.
No,
because it was just an afterthought, and we knew it was coming. Not that it was like widely reported, but it was kind of in the rumor mill for a while. Benjamin Pratt as Bail Organa. Before we talk about him, just to wrap up what this scene is, whatever Mon Mothma is doing, Bail says he's not leaving, right? And Yavin's not ready. He's gonna hold down the fort here, basically, be her connection to the Senate, while she goes off and leads the rebellion on Yavin or wherever she ends up. Which I only say that because she doesn't go to Yavin right away if you watch Star Wars Rebels. But anyway, Mike, what did you think of this opening here with Bail and then Benjamin Pratt as Bail? What do you think?
Yeah, there's a line that he said. They were going back and forth about what happened on Gorman a little bit. Not that they were arguing, but just kind of just reacting. And I love what Bail says. And he's like, the winner writes the story. And in this sense, it's the Imperials. And I was just like, that is so true in many things in life. The winner writes the story. And I'm like, wow, like just
great line.
But chaos in the Senate, and like you said, sets the stage for Mon Mothma. But I love to, because, you know, when we get to Rogue One, you kind of wonder where Bail's position is. You know, is he still is he still like representing Alderaan in the Senate? Like what's going on? We got, you know, teases here in Rebels that he was kind of a troublemaker in the Senate, and people from Alderaan, you know, causing trouble in the Senate with Bail and Leia. But yeah, it was great to hear his stance on it, being like, no, we need a stall. Yavin is not ready. We need a stall. I need to hold the fort down here. You need to go. You need to go now. You need to go lead the rebellion. I need to stay here. And I'm like, oh my God, that is so cool, because we didn't get that. We didn't get in Rebels, from the stuff that we've seen. We didn't see where we just saw Bail pop up on one of the communications, on one of the holograms of people overlooking Mon Mothma's speech, but we didn't get to hear his stance, you know, and I really want to hear his stance. But with that being said, Benjamin Pratt, there's so much last week we didn't even get to it, which I was thinking about it, and I'm like, oh my God, we didn't even get to that. But first of all, I just want to say
Benjamin Bratt. Sorry, if I said Pratt, it is Benjamin Bratt. Yeah.
Bratt. Wait.
Yeah. Bratt with a B. With a B.
Gotcha.
As in B. Yeah.
Benjamin Bratt.
Yep.
He captures the warmth of Bail Organa so well. So well.
He's a great Bail. Yeah.
He's a great Bail. And look, I love Jimmy Spitz. Smits. He will always be Bail Organa to me.
Yes.
But the great thing about these Star Wars characters, with a rare exception of maybe two, you can have with great dialogue, as you're capturing the essence of the character,
good costuming,
and you know, costuming, and then you have a great actor or a good actor portraying them. I feel like that just shows you how much of an impact that character has had on the Star Wars galaxy, or for us, that you're like, oh my God, it doesn't matter.
Lives beyond the role.
The character lives beyond the role. And I mean, I think we're so used to that as people that, watch animation and that love Star Wars, Clone Wars, Star Wars Rebels, that, we've seen when you don't get the exact voice actor, or the same actor up on the live action screen. You have somebody else playing them, and sometimes you feel like that's a smooth transition, sometimes you don't. But here it's just like, I just felt like it's just Bail Organa. Like, it's
Yeah.
not Jimmy Smith's playing him, obviously, but it's Bail Organa, and he captures that warmth. So I thought it was great. By the way, did you know that this they added the scene in the previous episode because Tony Gilroy was already expecting fans to be upset,
Hmm.
or not focusing on the narrative here, because they would have been so tripped up about the
So
recast
that
that
was
they
kind of
just
like the soft introduction of like, hey,
that
just
was
get
the
ready. This
right.
isn't a throwaway scene, just so you
Right.
know he's coming up for an important
Right.
part. Yeah.
And people, it was so funny to see people not know that, and people reacting last week to that scene where he passes Mon Mothma, like, Bail or Mon Mothma. It was like a quick cameo. People were like, really? Did they really need a recasting for that scene? It's
No, it
like,
was
no,
not a
y'all,
cameo. Yeah, like it was
like,
never a cameo. Yeah.
come on, y'all. Like, there has to be something deeper there. Like,
Right.
they needed Bale in this story, and I'm so glad they took this route rather than being like, oh, we'll just write Bale out of the story. No, they needed that exact thing
Yeah.
that I was just
Yeah.
saying about him holding on the fort, her, getting in the car and leaving.
Yeah.
So, um, the, love this scene. Love Benjamin Bratt as. Look, this is gonna be crazy to say, but I hope beyond Andor, I hope we see more Benjamin Bratt playing Baragon in some capacity. I want to see Jimmy Spence
Yeah.
back for sure, but
Hmm.
I just, from what I saw and hear, love this guy. What about you?
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't want to. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, listen, the writing in the show makes everyone look better. It just does. And the writing they give Bale here is great. It's the best writing Bale has ever had. Um, would it have been read really well by Jimmy Smits? I'm positive. Of course it would have. And we would have gone, hell yeah, that's Bale. That's my homie, Bale Organa. It would have been great. It would have been awesome. Um, but I think the success of it speaks for itself when you have this moment. I mean, at least for me at the start, when the two of them are standing there talking to each other. I'm looking at the costume, I'm looking at the makeup, I'm hearing Benjamin Bratt speak, and I am going in my head, holy shit, that's Mon Mothma and Bale. And I am nerding
Right.
out seeing the two of them together. I don't know why, I just am. And I'm like, that's so cool. And to me, that just says, yeah, it works. It totally works. He has some great lines here. We'll like mention one of them later at the right moment. But yeah, no, it was great. It was really good. He did a fantastic job. Yeah, there's certain characters in Star Wars. I would say, like, you know, Anakin. You can't have Anakin played by anyone that's not Hayden, probably, unless it's
Yeah.
animated and you have Matt Lanter in there. But
Right.
that just goes to show, like, there are instances where you can rent out these characters to other actors and they will do a great job. And I think
Yeah.
Benjamin Bratt is a great example of that. He
And
he he did a great job.
And Benjamin won brownie points with me because he posted on Star Wars Day that he was in Andor, but he thanked Jimmy Smits for
Yeah, yeah,
doing the role, and
hmm
I'm like, dude, that's awesome.
yeah,
If you please, I'm gonna say this and then we can move on. Please read Reign of the Empire. You really get Bale and Mon Mothma like butting heads or agreeing, and they're friends, but they have different ways of going about this rebellion at the beginning. And it's
hmm
just a great deep dive into their characters. So please go read. And Bale gets to work with Saul Guerrero, and you get kind of see their what they agree on and what they disagree on, and just their
yeah,
introductions are amazing too. So please go read Reign of the Empire.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Which advice goes for me as well. I need to read it.
There
Um,
you go.
by the way, Mike, quick note. I'm okay if we go to 2 hours, just because it's like there's no way we're gonna be able to talk about this in 10 minutes. So we can push for 2 if that's fine by you.
I got you. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we catch up with Cassian, Clea, and Luthen then for a while here. Cassian starts saying this thing, and it's like, what? He wants to be done. He wants to be done with the rebellion. For him, he just witnessed what he witnessed. If he goes any deeper into this thing, it's only going to get worse, especially after witnessing Gorman. Wants to get out, and it's so interesting how many times Cassian as a character just last season, before he was even part of the rebellion, just wants to leave it. You know, like such a reluctant hero. Again, what we're talking about way earlier in this episode of like the Frodo having to carry the ring to Mordor. Cassian is feeling the weight of that, encroaching as like more responsibility is going to be needed from him than ever. But yeah, needs to start making his own decisions. Like I said, we catch up with Luthen a little bit. We learned that Erskine, Mon Mothma's like aide, has been working for Luthen. And that revelation doesn't really sit well. Doesn't want Mon Mothma to go to Yavin because at least not with Bail, because Bail's people are corrupted. It took me a while to understand what he meant by that, and that it wasn't just like Luthen kind of being delusional or his spy thing being like, okay, man, like who's giving you intel, that sort of thing. But then we realize over time, like, oh, that's because there's an ISB agent infiltrating Bail's people in the Senate. So Luthen is going to provide Mon with his own sort of escort out of Coruscant, which will be Cassian Andor. Now, to seal the deal on that, though, Cassian talks to Luthen. It's the first time they've talked in a while, it seems. Cassian is very much against Luthen giving him further orders. Of course, like he said, he wants to be done, and he makes his own decisions. Luthen disagrees, lists all these things that he's done for Luthen. Is going, hey, you did Aldani for me. You did Narkina. You did Ferrix. You did Mina Rao. You did Gorman. Are you sure you really make your own decisions? Because you seem awfully loyal to me, But all this really is the setup to get us back into the Senate. Also, a quick thing in here before we talk about it. Mon finds a listening device in her office. And at first it's like, oh, that thing's on. Should we be No, she just smashes it. And you go, oh man, Mon Mothma is about to pop off. So what did you think about the setup here?
I loved it. I know I said I was last time I plugged in that book, but they go into this about listening devices and with Bail and Mon Mothma and Reign of the Empire. So just putting that out there.
Really cool.
But the whole setup with Clea and Cassian up in the shop and being like, you're tired, you've been through a lot. But she's like, one would think that someone that like you that just survived such an atrocity that you'd be good to continue fighting or something like that. And then she said, the senator that you're about to rescue, she's going to be the voice of behind or against the atrocity that you just survived. So kind of being like, hey, like there's kind of a not a just kind of putting
calls for the greater good here.
Yes, call for the greater good. Yeah, exactly. But literally the words that I was looking for, something along those lines. But and then you get this. What's the guy's name? The aide, Mon Mothma's aide.
Erskine.
Rebels. Yeah. Erskine. That was a shock, and I love the way she was like, since when were you working with him? And
man, that was a betrayal. But that was a little bit heartbreaking scene, just because of Erskine's reaction, where he's like,
right.
God,
I tried doing everything. I do it to defend you, like, and I like that Luthen was like, you don't know how many times he saved your skin without you knowing, or something like that. And that was kind of eerie to kind of hear. It's like, oh, or kind of just mysterious too. It's like, how many times did he put his life on the line for Mon here? But yeah, Mon, probably the biggest betrayal that she's ever felt, and she doesn't even. I love the way, I don't know, this, we've had probably, in terms of Luthen's involvement with episodes, this was probably like this arc probably saw like just saw less of him, but I felt like his presence was so strong.
It always looms, yeah.
And it felt like we were in a cage placed by Luthen, and I felt like Cassian felt that way. Mon Mothma felt that way, and she was crying, being like, I fear you more than anyone right now. And it's just like, yikes, like that.
Yeah. I mean, wow. In a way, like, I think a thought going through my head here with Luthen at the end, we see him after Gorman, of course, is like, it goes back to the thing he said to Cassian last arc, which is like, what was it? Like, And if it goes up in flames, it will burn very brightly. Well, guess what? It's burning. But here's the thing, Luthen, like that doesn't have, I don't know if it's having the impact you were hoping for, because the media has hijacked this whole situation. Now, we don't know the effects of Mon Mothma's speech necessarily. We get some stuff in Rebels. How much of it is directly connected to Gorman? How much of it is rebellion that rose up independent of that? We don't know. But to me, it's kind of like, I think what we're really seeing here in this whole arc is like Luthen has lost his relevancy. And by the end, it's kind of gone, where it's like, we don't really need the cloak and dagger spy network anymore. The rebellion is a big, loud thing now. It's an entity. It's a faction, whose kind of goal at this point is basically just to gather as much strength, unite all the cells, get this thing up and running. We need an army. I think this is something that's said earlier in the arc here. And yeah, so there's really just a contrast here with Luthen, where it's like, is he still reliable? Is he still dependent? And the truth is he is. And I think that, with Luthen, his whole entire story through Andor has been, he is a necessary evil in a way of like, this is a morally unconscionable way to fight a rebellion, to lead a rebellion. But at every turn, he's kind of right about what he's doing. And that's a hard thing to reckon with. And it's very much the case here. Mon had a difficult choice when it's like, you got Bail's people. You have that great moment with her and Bail where she's saying goodbye. And it's like, Bail's like, don't worry, my people got you. I don't know them personally, but they got you. And then you have Luthen, who's like, you're going to take my person. Don't trust Bail. And it's like, who would you be more inclined to, side with?
Oh my God, right. To where it comes down to it, where at the last minute, Mon Mothma's like, are you sure you know those people? And he's like, no, I can't know. I can't know for secrecy reasons. I can't know them. And I was like, oh
yeah. And also just this moment, of course, where Mon like basically is like, whatever, Erskine, goodbye. You've betrayed me.
Yeah,
and there's this great shot then where she kind of turns facing the camera, not directly, but just like towards the camera. And I'm going, man, like I feel like I'm seeing the birth of the Mon Mothma I know. There's been so many moments of that this season, but like the birth of this kind of stalwart, lonely leader in a way, where we almost never see Mon Mothma speaking to any one person. It's always to the entire group. You see the tortured soul become this kind of stoic leader in a sense. And this is kind of, to me, this felt like the moment where that kind of officially happens, of like, oh, like Mon Mothma is never going to depend on like anyone personally to protect her ever again. She will be the leader now. She will lead others and protect them, So yeah. Yeah. So we get some of the setup here, and things are getting tense, and which is when I remember, oh, I know how the show is. It's a third episode. Get ready for tension, We get some build up here to the speech, while Bail is kind of, various senators are speaking out about or speaking out about what happened to the Imperial patriots who died, on Gorman. We should make a memorial for them or something to that effect. We get one of the ISB agents infiltrating Bail's people, lock them in a storeroom, kills them, and then it's like, oh, where'd that guy go? I don't know. So tensions get up here. Bail says their final goodbye to Mon, and says, see you next year on Yavin. Tear the shit out of this place. What a great line.
What a great line.
Yeah, the fist pump moment. But yeah, Bail speaks, then yields the floor to Mon. And before we talk about this, Mike, because for me, I think this is the most hype moment of these 3 episodes.
Yes.
I just want to read some excerpts from this amazing speech that Mon Mothma gives. So this is like the other night when you're like, let me read 2 paragraphs from Dark Disciple. From Dark Disciple. No.
We only read 1 paragraph.
Yeah, we only read 1 paragraph. I believe we are in a crisis. The distance between what is said and what is known to be true has become an abyss. Of all the things at risk, the loss of an objective reality is perhaps the most dangerous. The death of truth is the ultimate victory of evil. When truth leaves us, when we let it slip away, when it is ripped from our hands, we become vulnerable to the appetite of whatever monster screams the loudest. This chamber's hold on the truth was finally lost on the Gorman Plaza. What took place yesterday, what happened yesterday on Gorman, was unprovoked genocide. Yes, genocide. And the truth has been exiled from this chamber. And the monster who is screaming the loudest, the monster we've helped create, the monster who will come for us all soon enough, is Emperor Palpatine. And then the mic cuts. Mike, what was your reaction to this incredible moment?
Well, while I was watching, my dad decides to come down. I'm like, oh god.
Oh no.
I was like, please no, leave me alone. We're literally at the climax, and he
Yeah.
comes to sit down, and I'm like, okay, he can sit and watch the speech. I'm like, but he
Mhm.
better not say anything because I'm gonna be like, Dad, can you go back upstairs? But God, to say that I had a pit in my stomach, I'm telling you, like, there's no exaggeration here. I felt like I was there with Monmouth. I
Mhm.
felt like I was the one giving the speech too because I'm like, oh my god, I was so paranoid. I'm like, okay, as soon as you say the speech, get out, run, like run out to the U-wing or whatever's gonna pick you up. But this one, like, I don't. It's like best best speech in Star Wars. It's up there. Like, it's a contender for sure. Or
Yeah.
I would say it's a contender. God, God, speaking, going back to season 1 where she kind of danced around the Gorman stuff
Or
situations
the
or
first arc,
about,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
from the
Oh,
first arc.
season 1. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
season 1.
Sorry. Yep.
She kind of danced around the Gorman uh, front or something like that. She mentioned something about the Gormans, and kind of just dance around, and no one was listening to her. There's just chatter going around. There's no one up in the central pod there. What do they call this guy? The Oath Keeper or something? They call
Oath Keeper. Yep.
Oath Keeper.
Mhm.
There no Oath Keeper yet. Or at least he wasn't present. But then and we get a buildup of there's a Senate scene in the last arc, right? Or was it the last arc?
Yeah.
But this one was just like the culmination of everything and the buildup of all her Senate scenes and everything that Mom Mothma has been doing behind the scenes and everything. I'm like, it's come here with the ISB driver, with her and Luthen, her dealings with Take Homo. Take Homo got a shout out in the episode, which
Yeah.
rest in peace. But
Mhm.
God, what and saying it out to the galaxy, out to the to Palpatine himself, who I'm sure was watching from the Imperial Palace. I mean, shook me to my core. Where I'm like, this was probably one of the most bravest things any Star Wars character has done, and
Oh,
there
yeah.
was almost a sense that I got that just wasn't ready for it. I would have been throwing up on that pod. I would have been like, when Bale called me, I would have been like, ooh, I would have hurled.
Yeah.
The delivery of this was amazing. The impact of the words, the relevancy that we
Yes.
can connect with and mirror with our own personal world that's going on right now,
Mhm.
and genocide being the key word there.
Yes. Yeah.
God, was this so good? God, did this give me
Oh,
so much adrenaline? God, does Genevieve O'Reilly deserve an Emmy?
yes.
Like, oh my god, this
Yeah.
was just one of the best Star Wars scenes ever, and it wasn't
Mhm.
a freaking lightsaber fight, wasn't a space battle, and I love me my space battles. Wasn't a space battle. It was a monologue
Yeah.
said in the Senate. Um, God, what a powerful scene! Just
Mhm.
moved me so much, and I was goosebumps, tears, every emotion. I felt it. God, was this just so well done? And before I got on here, I replayed it on my iPad, and I was like, just all the chills. And
Yeah.
and she said, the monster we've helped create. I'm thinking,
Mhm.
going back to Attack of the Clones, voting the Chancellor emergency powers, or just even everything leading up to leading in the Clone Wars, giving more powers to the Chancellor, voting
Mhm.
for more
Mhm.
war. Even Padme, who ended up being against Palpatine in the Council of 2000 or something like that. Um, Padme was the one that was kind of coaxed into, by Palpatine himself, to remove the Chancellor Valorum. Like, you go all the way back. and it's like Padme was one of Mon Mothma's dear friends, and it's like, yikes! Like we've helped create this monster along the way to where now he's unstoppable, and just God, what a brilliant scene.
Yeah, yeah.
And all the scenes cutting back to the ISB center or whatever, and they were like
Oh,
scrambling
and
to like
trying to shut down the speech, and yeah, yeah.
turn off the stream. Like we need
You
to
got those
turn it off.
two like techies that are like,
Yeah,
oh, we have to go find the pass
all
key,
right,
and they're like, this door's open all year. It's like, ah, not
right.
today, sorry. Like they're definitely
Yeah, they
helping
and
out
on
Mon
it,
Mothma there. Yeah.
and they looked at each other. It was great, but yeah, the
Hmm.
ISB stuff was so tense. I was on the edge of my seat, filled with anxiety.
Hmm.
But what did you? I mean, you and I both were raving about
Yes.
this scene, but what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the speech is just one big bit of catharsis. Like we've seen Mon Mothma suffer so much this entire series. Like it is just this character gets tortured just mentally so much. We saw her kind of lose her family essentially at the beginning of the season. Not like in a physical way, but basically like, oh, you have this family, but you'll never have the emotional connection you want with your daughter. You've lost her entirely. You lost your connection with your husband a long time ago. You lost your best friend, Tay Kolma. Your closest ally is the most dangerous man in the galaxy, Luthen Rail. You can't trust your driver. You can't trust half the people in your network. You can't even trust Erskine, even though he's a little more defensible, but still, like, it's just so rough for Mon Mothma, and she's just been suffering silently so much. This was so cathartic, I think, for her. It's again one of those formative moments for the Mon Mothma character that we see in Return of the Jedi and in Rogue One, and cathartic for the viewer. Like it's like you said, there's just shocking relevancy in this. Tony Gilroy has often said like he doesn't write with a newspaper. He's not looking at the daily headlines and going, "Let me write about this in my show," but and is instead defers to history as a reference, which is true. I mean, things like genocide have happened so many times in history. The genocide happens a lot of the time because of lies upon lies upon lies that a lot of people believe in and go, you know what, you can kill them, that's fine, which is never justifiable, ever, ever, ever. And but just the way that she words certain things here makes me go, okay, Gilroy, like you had to be looking at some of the news when you were, writing this. I was
Absolutely.
telling you before we started, like the phrase objective reality is such a talking point of like the last 5 years of social media, as we've seen kind of the role that propaganda and fake news and that sort of thing has in swaying public opinion and misinforming voters, misinforming people, and the things like the sort of abyss between what is said and what is known to be true has become an abyss. Like these are such super duper relevant ideas, and the idea of truth being the most evil thing is maybe like to me the kind of puts um the 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 nail on the head. That was the analogy I was looking for there. The nail on the head of like, oh yeah, like that is how so much evil things happen in reality when people look the other way from people with ulterior motives, dark evil motives, the banality of evil, carrying out deeds for some evil agenda, is from people just looking the other way and not looking the truth in the eye, as Cyril was kind of realizing for himself last episode. So incredible, fires you up. Um, as I was talking to my roommate as well about this, after listening to this, I wanted to get up, run around, and go find the nearest fascist and punch them in the face. Um, not
Yeah.
directly condoning violence, but like, yes, how powerful it is to call something for what it is. Genocide, that's something we struggle with today. Calling things for what they are, like in our kind of world politics, and just calling out Emperor Palpatine directly, so powerful. Yeah, just incredible.
It's like you said before we start recording, this was a timeless piece, like a timeless message,
Yeah.
and I felt like this was a call to action from Gilroy and creatives to be like, stand up and do something, say something,
Hmm.
rather than letting it go, then letting it be normalized. Say something. This is not okay. Yeah, it was really strong and relevant. Where I told Parks I want to get up and be like, you know what? Let's go to the White House right now. We got
Yeah,
a
yeah,
speech.
let's get in there. Yeah.
Turn on the cameras. We got a speech to say
The
to give.
revolution will be televised. Yeah.
The revolution will be televised.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But just all the chosen. This is like I said. This is a culmination of even going back to Revenge of the Sith, deleted scene with Mon Mothma,
Mm,
Padme, and Bale sitting together and forming that the League of 2000 or the Council of
yeah. Yeah.
2000.
Yeah.
You
Hmm.
know, which Reign of the Empire goes into. But yeah, like it feels like the culmination and the full circle moment of like this is what we were kind of fighting for, and Moth Mothma gives her speech and mic drop and she runs out. So
Yeah.
and what an escape. What an escape there. Like tense.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
it was like I'm like we and seeing troopers inside the Senate building. I don't even
Ooh.
think we saw clone troopers in the Senate building before. We've seen Senate
Senate guards,
guards,
Senate commandos.
but
Yeah.
never troopers.
Hmm.
And seeing stormtroopers rush in there. And I thought it was cool, like how they had the senators check in with their data pad or like their ID,
Hmm.
and they had to go through a scanner. And then you see all the stormtroopers run in there, and the scanner started beeping red that like they have a weapon on them. I was like, okay, that's cool. That was like a cool little
Yeah. 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 Little detail.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what a fantastic episode. I felt like this was a whole meal in itself that I'm like, damn,
Hmm.
just damn.
Yeah.
And Bail Organa just kind of sits back at the end and what kind of thinks about what just happened and what it means for him too. So
Yeah. Great moment. Yeah. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, we're definitely not going to be able to do this in 4 minutes. That's okay. I will keep going. Unless if it's all right with you. Okay. Okay, cool. All right. So, so then we get the escape. I loved this sequence. I loved
yeah,
it so much. This is the meeting. This is the meeting of Cassian and Mon Mothma. We were wondering how this is going to happen. What a cool way for it to happen. He's escorting her out of the Senate. Lots of it's to me this felt like so much Mission Impossible, just like Tom Cruise being like, all right, walk with me, come this way, don't go down that corridor, go down this
mm-hmm.
alley instead.
Sure.
Really cool. Except Cassian is far more like unkempt a character, mind you. He's still got a scar on his face from the day before at the massacre. He's probably not all right. Like this guy's been through so much in the last 48 hours. But yeah, we come down the elevator here and or wherever they're at. We come out into like this little lobby area, and there's the ISB agent. She at first calmly asks Mon to come with, then they're like no, and then she pulls a gun out and goes, you are under arrest by the ISB. Erskine is there, and in this great clever moment goes, she's a rebel agent, and Cassian goes bang.
That was perfect. Yep.
Yeah, no, such a great little moment. Just, I mean, not little moment, but just awesome.
I hate it. That girl looks so familiar. Did we see her before with the ISB?
Maybe I
She
didn't
looks
think
so
she looked familiar,
familiar.
but that's possible.
Maybe it's from the trailer because she came on the
I think
trailer
she's
where
in the
she was
trailer.
pointing
Yeah.
the blaster at everybody.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, what a getaway scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a getaway scene. I was when they said Bill's team was corrupt and she ended up being with the ISB. I was like, damn. I was like,
Yeah. There's
but
always something.
but Mon Mothma being at the crossroads and kind of floundering a little bit, being like, Bale, like, are you sure your team's good? Like, are you, and then just going with Cassian and yeah, that legendary meetup. I was like, yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
happened really cool.
Yeah. So honestly, yeah, just a great scene. I love the way they kind of like he's talking to her about it to kind of convince her because she's used to all these contingencies. Like,
Right.
they could have infiltrated Luthen's cause. They could have done this. I have friends everywhere. I love that little like code phrase that
Yeah.
they use. And I love that Cassian's way of kind of convincing her to trust him is to kind of just connect with her humanity of like, I know how Luthen can be. I know how
Yep.
intense he
Yep.
is.
Perfect.
I totally get it. Like, don't worry, you can trust me. And that's the thing where it's like, for Mon, it's like finally someone who's like honest about who they are.
Right. And even confused about what with their relationship with Luthen, because there's a line that Cassian says is like, if Luthen is right about this, like, something along those lines about if
Yeah.
Luthen is right, even almost like, Mon Mothma is not certain about Luthen, and then she meets Cassian, who is not certain on Luthen, and then that's
Yeah,
their
yeah.
connecting bridge of like I can kind of trust them. So that
Exactly,
was
yeah.
really good detail.
Absolutely. And then, yeah, before we totally exit here, we get a moment that, of course, we we recreated at the start of the show, which is when Cloris is approaching Mon Mothma's like driver, and Cassian's like, "What's his name?" She's like, "What? Why are you asking? What's his name?" Cloris. "Hey, Cloris, I got her." And he's like, "Oh," and he puts his gun down, then bang, gets him again. Like, God, Cassian
I
is so
wish he
cool.
shot him twice, but yeah.
Honestly, yeah. God, Cassian is so cool. He just doesn't care, man. Like Luthen would be all like, first we need to put him in a situation where he's,
Right.
we make him seem like he killed himself. No, Cassian's like, no, forget that. I got him.
And I love the moment where yeah, he's like oh, like, can we trust or not, can you trust your dad? There's some dialogue that Cassian says to my mom.
Oh, he says, who's that? My driver.
Yeah.
Can we trust him? No, he's
Yeah.
an ISB plant. What's his
Yeah.
name?
It was just
Bang.
perfect. It was
Yeah.
perfect. Perfect.
So
Yeah.
cool. So
And
then,
I love the way
go ahead.
Mom Mothma, like that SpongeBob meme where it's like the fish is like whispering something, but he has like big lips, and that's what Mom Mothma looked like. No, he's an ISB plant. It was perfect.
Yeah. So from there, we come to the end here on Yavin. We get some small updates. Melshi is here. Our boy
Yeah.
Melshi made it. I wonder if we're going to hear about the adventures he's been on the last 3-4 years. Next episode. Will and Drina also made it. Was not expecting that. Was very glad to see them. And at this point, I'm going, shoot, is this going to be the first like Andor arc in a hot minute with a happy ending? That would be awesome. Cassian then reunites with Bix, reiterates something we heard up top of the episode, which is he is done. He wants to focus on Bix, on the relationship. And Bix is very silent, says she's listening, and seems like it's all cool. But then the next day, Cassian wakes up and Bix is gone. Nowhere to be found. And she leaves a recording for Cassian that basically is like, listen, I believe what you said about choices and whatnot, so I'm making a choice for the both of us. I can't be the reason you're going to leave the rebellion. I just can't. The Empire cannot win. You have to destroy this thing. And if I am keeping you from doing that, I'm going to leave, and says something at the end that I wrote down because it's a callback to something from season 1, which is, when this is all over, I'll find you. Which is something Cassian says a couple times last season when he first, when he parts ways from Bix at the end of the season, along with Will and everyone else on the shuttle. He goes, I'll find you, So yeah, a lot of themes there. But this is the exit of Bix. I'm assuming this is the last time we're going to see Bix. I have some ambivalent feelings about this, Mike, but what did you think?
God, total shock. I felt like the carpet was pulled right under our feet. And because I was thinking that she was going to bite the dust.
Yeah, me too. I was very much
and I
in
felt
that
like
camp.
this. Yeah, I felt like the setup came from the healer at the beginning, kind of, where it was setting up Cassian's destiny, but also was setting up hers in a line of tragedy, because she didn't line up with what he was going to do. So, and obviously us knowing what happens to Cassian in Rogue One, it's like, wait, why is he all touchy-feely with Jin? Like, so I'm like, yeah, like what happens with Bix? But there was a line that she said when it was her finishing lines when she says like, so I'm choosing for the both of us. I'm choosing the rebellion. And I'm like, this is what this girl has been about since before.
Yeah.
I mean, she was the one that was in contact with Luthen in the first place, on Ferrix. But God, what a conclusion to her and Cassian's story, if it is the end for them here. But I love the setup that was done in the first episode with the healer and her seeing the bigger picture and her seeing, shit, if Cassian is not involved in this rebellion, there's no hope for the galaxy. So she really connected with the healer, and she made that evident when she was telling Cassian that it's like, no, you she didn't even know who you were, and she called you out and she knew who you were, and she knew where your
He's the messenger.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
and you're the messenger, and she believes that. And I almost it reminded me of not to get like too religious here, but it
Mm-hmm.
reminded me a little bit about Mary in the Christian faith, of her believing that Jesus was the messenger, Jesus was the Messiah, and her being like putting everything towards that and being like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm choosing for all of us, you are the savior of humanity. So
Yeah.
God, just so powerful here, and moving, and obviously heartbreaking at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. Especially with the music and the moment of like, it felt very like very much like a movie moment of like Cassian running out on the platform, being like, "When did the last outbound shuttle leave? Like, it left this morning," and it's like it's too late,
Yeah.
and he's running around, looking around at the rebels and teary eyed, hair swooshing in the wind. Yeah, I have mixed feelings about this. It felt very sudden, and I don't love. To me, it feels like yes, Biggs would want the rebellion to come first, but I don't know if that means she wouldn't be involved in it still herself. Like that's just where I'm at with it, where it's like I needed maybe another scene or two to kind of build to this instead of coming back and it's the video recording. I think what you
Sure.
mentioned about the force healer is a great connection that kind of explains this. Like she believes in that even though Cassian doesn't, and she can't be the reason that screws it all up. Like if he is truly that important. I just for me it feels like something they've been kind of communicating about Bix this season is like it's not that she's not okay if she is not doing something herself to stop the empire, um and so it's a little surprising to me that she's going, I choose the rebellion, and by doing that I'm just going to leave. It's like i I feel like the more logical outcome, and maybe it's not, but maybe logical is not the right word, but just like the more believable outcome would be like if she was like, we have to end the relationship, and maybe that would have been messy, and maybe it wouldn't have worked out, and with ended her leaving. But I maybe also wanted to see that conversation before it ultimately
Yeah.
ended this way. So
Sure.
just my own little critique, where
Fair
I was
enough.
like, I don't love that, but I do understand her reasoning. So
Right. And I mean, I just on my end, I was just so moved at her response to the healer, that was moving
mhm.
enough. And I know, and maybe we definitely could have checked in with her to see how she was, but I even think there was some illusion there with when she was talking to Vel about Luthen and all that. And I don't know. Yeah, I just thought that
Yeah,
really, the after the conversation with the healer, she just took on that he was the messenger, and she was not going to stray away from that.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that brings us to the final scene here, the birth of K2SO. All these kind of engineers are standing in this hangar with goggles. Cassian goes, I'll take a gun, please. As they turn this thing on. And Mike, I don't know if your brain went here, but the way the sound design was going, I thought that's not a KX droid. That's a Decepticon. You want to turn that thing off. Like it sounded like Transformers, like
It did, it did. That's so funny,
making
right?
all the
Yeah,
noises. But then yeah, they finally turn on, and K2 looks right at Cassian because he's pointing the gun at him. He goes, sorry, I didn't mean to offend you. I'd appreciate that you stop pointing that thing at me. And then the episode ends.
yeah. K2's there.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. This I looked at the runtime and I saw there's only 9 minutes left, and I was like, "Oh, is that what we're doing?" Okay. I was not to derail the conversation from this. I was hoping we even see a glimpse of, and I almost felt blue balled by this, of because I love that they put it in there that, oh no, Gold Squadron is, they sent Mon Mothma to
Right.
another, because they were saying that
Yeah,
they
this is
were going
Val
to
to talk
deliver her.
about. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they were going to deliver her to Yavin 4. And I'm like, all right, okay, so we're not going to follow the Rebels storyline, which I was okay with, because like I said, we have a better story, just tell it. Rebels has its version. I can watch that anytime and
Yeah.
appreciate that, but Andor can totally do its own version. I don't care. But they follow along the Rebel storyline, and they're like, oh, we sent her away because we don't want any signal tracing back here to Yavin, because they were able to source in on her signal, and that's what the Rebels episode is.
Hmm.
So they sent her far away from Yavin 4, and her senatorial aide, Esker, Erskine is with her.
Yeah.
So, and Gold Squadron was going to go in and retrieve her, and that's where the Rebels episode picks off, where Hera saves her, and then the Gold Squadron comes in, and so I'm like, oh wow, that's happening on the other side of the galaxy with Thrawn and everything.
They handled that pretty well. Yeah.
Yeah, they did. It was kind of, but I almost wanted to see
the handoff moment.
Maybe a handoff moment, and it was funny because one of the guys was telling Cassian to move that a freighter was going to come in, and I was thinking the Ghost was going to come in and land on Yavin 4, but I don't think they even go to Yavin 4 yet. But it was just
she goes to Adelon first, right?
Yeah, Hera does. Yeah, they go to it would be a while, but it was like, oh, I thought for a second, I'm like, are they talking about the Ghost? But I almost wish that we saw a little scene there, but I see what they did, and it was just like they handled it nicely. They communicated well to us, but I kind of still think that maybe we should have had a better handoff, because I felt like we were building Mon Mothma up to go to Yavin 4, and then it was just kind of a throwaway line that some dude on the Ram said that was like, oh no, we had her go to somewhere else. I'm like,
they want her to give a speech.
They wanted
and before she gets escorted to Yavin, and in my brain, I'm thinking, oh, they is probably Pablo Hidalgo, because the story group is like, no, don't contradict. You can contradict the K2 and Cassian comic, but you can't contradict Rebels.
No, it's okay when Dave Filoni contradicts your stuff, but don't contradict his stuff.
Sorry, Tony Gilroy, you're not there yet. Yeah,
you're not there yet. And they almost, I love the way they said it, where they said we're gonna retool the story, or we're gonna re-theme the story or something. We're gonna tinker with the story, and that was like the story of rebellion, the birth of the Rebel Alliance, kind of to make it more impactful, I guess. But didn't they say something like that? Yeah,
I can't remember.
But anyways, great ending. I still love the K2 stuff. What a arc that we have next. I don't even know what to expect from it, to be honest with you. I felt like we hit all the major points that we did, and I don't think we've seen a lot from this last arc.
I don't think so either. I feel like we've only seen certain shots here and there, like Saw Gerrera on Jeddah and stuff like that. But yeah, not much. So, and there's certain characters, big characters, whose fates are still up in the air, like Luthen, Dedra, people like Lonnie, who are still in the ISB. Yeah, Kino Loy. There was all those rumors that we're going to see him. Are we going to see him?
They said it years ago that he was going to come back. Who knows?
Yeah, so maybe he's in here. Williman, like, what's going on with him? Clea, like Vel, like, are these characters going to go off into the beyond? Hell, are we going to see Bix again? I don't know. If all these people are going to die next week, I don't know if I could handle that.
Yeah.
So
don't Revenge of the Sith it. Don't Revenge of the Sith it. Just because you can do a Tony Gilroy story set in the rebellion, during the Empire Strikes Back or something.
Yeah.
Save them characters.
Yeah. But Mike, that's the end of this arc. So I'm gonna hand this back over to you to end it all. This is as good as Star Wars gets right here. I think this arc was incredible.
It's something that I wish I could show my kids, my students. I teach 6th grade and middle school, and I wish I could show them this, because it's just, I want everyone to see something like this.
Yeah.
But I have to water things down, and I show them supply lines from Clone Wars, and I'm like, this is how politics works, right? But this is, wow, like, God, you heard all our conversations here, and I want to thank Parks for his elaborate notes and walking us through today's episode. Parks, I appreciate you, and even staying up at this late hour to talk Andor.
I was fired up. Yeah.
And we were fired up. I'm telling you, we were ready to book our flights to Washington, D.C. and be like, we're going to tell you how it is.
Let's get this thing going.
Yeah.
We need IRL Cassian Andor. Where is he?
Yes, 100%. But there were so many moments here that will live on for the rest of my life that I will think of. And just Andor has had that impact. So these 3 episodes, for me, it was a total masterpiece, and I want to go back and rewatch them right now. But no, I can't, because it's 2 a.m.
I want to sleep, and then tomorrow
I want to sleep, and then get some rest first. But Parks, any last thoughts before we close off?
No, I'm loving this journey, and it's really sad that it's almost at an end. But hey, it's been awesome so far. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, another
Yeah.
night of Andor.
Another night of Andor. And next week will be our last Andor after show ever. So that's very gutting to say, but the show came in, did what it needed to do, and it's out. There's a part of me that I'm like, I wish this show was 3 seasons or 4 seasons, but then we could have been talking about, oh, this feels a little too dragged out. But you know, I'm not a fan of the big time jumps here. I feel like there's a lot of things to tell, but you know what? It's coming in, telling its story and getting out. What more can you ask? You don't want things to get stale. But again, thank you, Parks, for covering the show with me, covering it at such depth that you do. You bring great deeper thinking here, and I love that. So thank you. I feel like we had a great conversation today. So
Yes, yeah.
appreciate you coming on and doing so. And we'll see Parks next week too. And I even updated his avatar above him. I gave him a Mon Mothma from Andor, not the Ahsoka show.
Nice.
So he got a bit of a promotion there.
Yeah.
But tell us what you thought about these 3 Andor episodes. Maybe did we hype it up too much? Maybe it didn't hit all the same for you. Let us know in the comment section below. And shout out Funko for sending me a wave of Andor pop figures, which I didn't even know they have. These are from the Narkina episodes. And then I got Marva and Luthen back there. Somewhere back there. There we go.
Oh,
back
cool.
there.
Yep.
So, and the Marva one, it's B2, the hologram from the ending, the finale where Marva's coming out of B2. But yeah, anyways, let us know what you think. See you next week for the Andor after show finale. And we'll see you guys then. May the Force be with you. Oh, wait, Parks, all his stuff will be in the bio like always. And go check out our Tales of the Underworld in the YouTube channel. All right, may the Force be with you. Until next time, Niamos.
Niamos.